listening to the June 10th of 2015 statement with Mr. Copeland.
Hang on just a second. I know that
isn't great, but I think the jurors in the back row are having a hard time seeing that.
Mr. Sprinkle, while Mr. Atkins is putting up the board, can you tell the jurors, did you review Mr. Copeland's phone records in light of the statement from June 10th of 2015 that you listened to?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, when did, activity on Mr. Copeland's phone or through his phone records, when did it begin in the early evening of June 10th of 2015?
Well, I guess it would depend on what you define as early evening. For me, I started inspecting the records as at 6:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors, was that an incoming or outgoing call?
His girlfriend, Deshawn Quarterman, called him at 6:20.
Okay, and did Mr. Copeland?
Simply, who called? I understand the handsets.
Sustained.
Okay, did the handset of Mr. Copeland's girlfriend call the handset related or associated with Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
And did Mr. Copeland's telephone, the number that was associated with him, did he answer?
He did not at 6:20 p.m.
Okay. Can you tell the jurors when was the next, incoming or outgoing call that Mr. Copeland made and was connected or answered?
Well,
I hope all these people have already changed their phone numbers.
6:27 p.m.
Did the handset related to Mr. Copeland's brother call the handset related to Kenneth Copeland?
Yes.
Okay. And did Mr. Copeland's handset telephone that's associated with him, did he pick up?
Well, it appears that he did. It was a 24-second conversation.
Okay. And do you recall during the interview that Mr. Copeland did on June 10th of 2015 what he described as it related to his activity in the early evening?
He said that he was at his house at 178 Maury Avenue. He'd been taking a midday nap.
Lucky.
At the time.
Okay. And did he indicate during that interview that when he, woke up, he called the handset that was associated with his girlfriend, Miss Courtman?
He did.
And is that consistent with what the cell phone records, the call logs for the handset?
Why does Thug have a Louisiana phone number? Anyone know that?
Yes.
I believe this is cumulative to the information elicited from Mr. Burning by Mr. Atkins last week. The cell record.
Shard is looking good today. Look at this suit. I love the pinstripe.
So my response would be Mr. Burning.
Just FYI, the reason the guys are standing over here is because there's a demonstrative and they want to be able to see the demonstrative. So this is what we do. We walk over and monitor the demonstrative.
Agent Burning, as he testified, he didn't review any sort of statements, so he was not in a position to talk about the consistency of the statement as it relates to the records, which was the necessity. The whole reason we needed to call Mr. Sprinkle back was due to that unfortunate scheduling issue.
All right, I'm gonna.
Your Honor, I think those would be juror issues. I don't believe it's Mr. Sprinkle's place to determine what is consistent and what's not.
Well, I'd also say this goes to Mr. Copeland was impeached on multiple occasions by multiple parties before this court and this jury, and this is prior consistent statements and activity as it relates to his impeachment.
I'm gonna overrule the objection.
You can answer the question. Let me ask it again.
Did he forget? Yeah.
What Mr. Copeland, I guess, described during his interview as it relates to waking up and his phone activity to the detectives on June 10th of 2015, is that consistent with the activity that you reviewed and you've described here today as it relates to the handset of Mr. Copeland and his call log detail records?
We
The
called
fuck?
the handset associated with Deshaun Quarterman at 6:58 p.m., so that was consistent with him talking about what he did after his midday nap.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors?
Midday? I wish I could get a midday nap.
As a part of your investigation, plot different calls as it related to the call detail records that you received with Mr. Copeland?
I did.
Okay. If you also had an opportunity to review similar, I guess, plotting of Special Agent Bernie?
I did.
Okay. Now, during the interview that day on June 10th of 2015, do you recall where Mr. Copeland
Jerry.
described, I guess, he went
you so
next as it
much.
relates to his activities that night?
He went to the green store, which is, I believe, at 322 Glen Street. That's what he said, yeah.
And in your review of Mr. Copeland's records, can you tell the jurors were his records consistent with him going to the green store shortly after he called the handset related to or associated with Ms. Quarterman?
So many words. Jesus
For
Christ.
Sprinkle's expertise, and these are questions for Agent Byrne. What
Thank you, Cherry,
happened
for the
next?
$4.99 super chat.
So, if that may be true, if I'm understanding what it is that Mr. Sprinkle's testifying to.
I can lay a foundation.
Okay.
Mr.
Should've
Sprinkle,
done that
do
to begin
you
with.
utilize or do you review call detail records on a regular basis as a part of your job responsibilities and duties with the District Attorney's Office?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors how often do you do that?
Multiple times a week. I don't want to go so far as to say every day. I'm sure there's days that I haven't, but it's thousands upon thousands of times, thousands of sets of phone record. At least over 1,500 sets of phone records, and that's a conservative estimate. So yeah, I look at phone records all the time and have been doing so since 2012.
And in the phone records, or in many of the phone records or the call detail records that you receive, do they have longitude, latitude, or cell site location data related to the different phone calls within the call detail records?
Yes, depending on the type of phone logs, call detail records that I have or that they are, yes, they will sometimes have cell site location information.
And can you tell the jurors, as a part of your job responsibilities and duties with the District Attorney's Office, how often do you map or plot different calls as it relates to the cell site location data contained within the call detail records?
All the time.
Another objection on foundation for this part of the testimony, Mr. Kristen Happy.
Okay.
As it relates to
Good
what
objection.
I really
Adam Matthews over there.
All right, so,
I'm laying the foundation.
Okay, he's in the midst of it.
So how often do you plot and map different call detail records, cell site location data?
Very, very often. Maybe not on every single case, but on many, many, many cases. How often? I would say at least once a week. Again, that's a very, very conservative estimate, but most cases have cell phone records, and I will generally, if there are cell phone records, want to look at those to make sure that the data is what we believe it to be.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors a little bit about your experience in the sense of how many years have you been
Sorry, guys.
utilizing cell site location information to map or plot different sets of phone records and specific phone calls within different sets of records?
Since 2012.
Okay, So roughly how many years? We're looking at what, over 10?
Don't make me
Yes.
And within those 10 years, can you tell the jurors how many sets of phone records do you believe that you have mapped or plotted cell site location information related to call detail records?
That would be hundreds. I don't keep a tally. But the number of cases that I deal with a year since that time, it would just be in the hundreds. A lot of cases.
Okay, and in the cases that you have
That's
done,
an exact
you just described,
approximation.
do you often work in tandem or in conjunction with different members of law enforcement, such as the Atlanta Police Department or other agencies within Fulton County?
Yes.
That's leading.
And have there been times that you also have worked with members of the FBI or different task forces as it relates to mapping and plotting call detail records?
Also
Maybe
leading.
like consulted with. Work would imply that I was like part of the team, or with respect to the FBI, that is. No, I mean, I've consulted with them.
Okay, so as it relates to this case, did you utilize cell site location information to map different calls for Kenneth Copeland after you listened to his recorded statement on June 10th of 2015?
I did.
And can you tell the jurors, as it relates to the mapping or the plotting that you did for Mr. Copeland's records, were they consistent at times with being near the green store?
Yes.
Cumulative,
Okay.
Agent Bernie has already testified to these matters.
And my response is these questions will be brief, but again,
I wasn't here when Bernie testified. That would have been my response.
Mr. Sprinkle's analysis is related to the statement that Mr. Copeland was impeached with during his testimony for the statement he gave on June 10th of 2015.
All right, and can you clarify whether whatever this analysis is based on Mr. Sprinkle's own plotting or whatever Mr. Bernie had already done?
Yes.
Okay.
The plotting that I've been talking to you about as it relates to Mr. Copeland is this plotting or mapping that you did yourself.
Yes.
And upon doing the plotting or mapping yourself with the cell site location information, well, let's start with, can you tell the jurors what information, I guess, are you inputting or using in order to get specific plots for specific calls?
So basically what I do is I'll have the phone records. I'll have a set of phone records, and there will be some cell site location information that's in the same row as the date and time and the phone number's called. And I'll use Google Earth. Sometimes some phone records are real easy. If they're from AT&T or T-Mobile, they'll just have the latitude and longitude of the tower actually in the records. Other phone companies, like Sprint at the time, or Verizon, they just put some sort of number that's unique to them. Like, it's a number that identifies the tower for them. It will be like 14732 or something. That's by no means a lot. That was just a number I just came up with out of nowhere. But it'll be some sort of number, and I'll have to cross-reference another spreadsheet where that spreadsheet will have the latitude and longitude. But long story short, though, I just take the latitude and longitude of the tower, I put it into Google Earth, and then I use a graphic plugin in Google Earth to create I get what I call a pie slice that represents the approximate area of coverage, or basically just points in the direction of the antenna or the azimuth of the tower.
Okay, so that was a long story.
Wow.
So can you tell the jurors, in your review of the phone records, what time, if any, was Mr. Copeland's handset in the area of the green store?
So his handset was consistent with was utilizing a tower that was consistent with it being at or in the area of the green store between 7:26 and 7:27 p.m.
Just on a personal note, I can't stand this cell tower bullshit. You know, like, it's not an exact location. It's an approximation. And it really bugs me how they use it against us. Also, thank you. I'm glad everyone is here. Good morning. I'm Lauren Cadillac, a.k.a. OG Cadillac, a.k.a. Mother of the Decade. We are watching live this morning, so I don't want to talk too much. Here we go.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors, through your review of Mr. Copeland's June 10th statement, did, I guess, the location, the McDonald's off of Cleveland Avenue become a point of interest that was related to the investigation you were doing?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors in your review of did you review Mr. Copeland's call detail records and the cell site location information in regards to that interest point?
I did.
And can you tell the jurors in your review what time, if any, Mr. Copeland was in the area of or consistent with being in the area of the McDonald's off of Cleveland Avenue?
It's
All
wild.
right, so like I testified previously, his phone gets to the area or uses a tower in the area of the Green Store from 7:26, 7:27 p.m. It remained in that general area or tower until about 7:47. And then 7:49, it pinged off the tower that serviced the general area of the McDonald's at Old Hayville and Cleveland Avenue.
And you said 7:49?
That's correct.
Okay, Jiggy, I'm going to address your comment right now. Whitaker said she wanted competent lawyers. There are still African American lawyers in there. BBL Brown went after that. Then she said it again when he was fucking up, okay? The reason that these lawyers have had to take over is because Love cannot make a fucking point to save her life. And for some reason, Hilton has begun to follow in that footsteps. For some reason, even though Hilton was doing, I thought she was decent, 6 months ago, she has tanked in the last few weeks. Oh, okay, Jiggy. Okay, good. So I'm like, it doesn't have anything to do with race. It's just that Miss Love is an idiot, and Hilton has just, I don't know, I think it's probably the pressure. I think it's like, this is so fucking long and tiring, and she's a 43-year-old woman. She probably is just
I don't recall if I said
over
that
it.
or not.
Okay.
She did say it to BBL Brown. You're right.
Can you tell the jurors, I guess, what you were able to determine, if anything, as it related to the call detail records being consistent with Mr. Copeland's handset being in the area of Sky House Midtown?
It was later that evening. His handset, from what I recall, from what I remember, it was after 11 p.m. when his handset utilized the tower that was near the Sky House. So it did utilize the tower at some point. It serviced the area of the Sky House.
I don't know if she started showing her true self as much as she's just worn out. Like, I think she was a decent advocate for a while.
And can you tell the jurors, the Sky House Midtown, how was that building, I guess, related to or relevant to the investigation that you were doing as
Not a
you
check mark,
continued to
y'all.
review the statement of Mr. Copeland and other materials that you received from the Atlanta Police Department?
That was the location that was said to be where Mr. Copeland and
What's he doing with his
others
foot?
converged later that evening on January 10th, 2015.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you about other statements that you reviewed. Do you recall also reviewing the statement for Mr. Quindarius Zachary from August 5th of 2015?
I do.
And can you tell the jurors, did you listen to that statement, I guess, in its entirety or in full?
I did.
And do you recall that during that statement, did Mr. Zachary reference any, I guess, rental vehicles?
He did.
And can you tell the jurors a little bit about what Mr. Zachary said during that statement as it related to a rental vehicle?
From what I remember, that he mentioned there was an Infiniti that was involved, and they believed that the manager for Mr. Williams rented the Infiniti.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors after getting that information from the statement, did you request anything from any rental companies here in the city of Atlanta?
Yes.
Okay. And did you,
Well, let me, it's a small clarification. I requested information from rental companies, and I didn't just specify from their physical locations only in the city of Atlanta. I asked from the rental car companies if they give me records of any rental cars that were rented by a list of people during a time, regardless of where the location was.
okay, And did you do that in relation to Mr. Jeffrey Williams?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, did you receive any information back as it related to any rental vehicles in the name of Mr. Williams?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to asked and answered previously.
I don't know if it has been with this witness, but it's certainly been established.
I can move on. Well, I want to show you what's been marked.
Why is he standing on his feet like that, y'all? Do you see that toe up?
335.
What is that? His bow toe's up. That's the weirdest way I've ever seen someone stand. Oh shit, what just happened? Ah! What just happened? I'm so sorry, guys. Never a dull moment. Sorry, guys. Let's make sure we're where we're supposed to be. Okay.
And as Mr. Atkins is getting to page 7, can you tell the jurors, do you recognize previously tendered and admitted States Exhibit 335Y?
Okay, is the 335Y what's being displayed on these television sets behind me?
That's correct.
Yes, I recognize this.
What is States Exhibit 335Y?
These are records that I received from Hertz Rent-A-Car.
Okay, and are these records, I guess, who are these records, I guess, related to and a reference to?
Jeffrey Williams.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. This is cumulative, and it is.
That's
has
so
been asked and
weird.
answered.
Well, my response is the specific information as it relates to what's
You don't have to
inside,
have a response every
States
time,
Exhibit
dude.
335Y was not elicited from any witness as it relates to the trial.
Okay, if there's something new on this exhibit, then
I'll just cut to the chase.
Yeah,
In
please.
States
Jesus.
Exhibit 335Y was a phone number of that was associated with the rental for Mr. Jeffrey Williams located within.
There was a phone number located somewhere within there, yes.
Okay, and you tell the jurors what that phone number was.
I don't recall. It's somewhere in the, I think, is it the one that ended in 3504 maybe? It should be in the business record though.
And do you see it on page 7?
Yes, 3904, 4504975, 3904, that's right.
And can you tell the jurors, after, I guess, receiving this document and learning of this number, was a request made or a search warrant done for the records as it relates to Jeffrey Williams?
Yes.
Okay, and did you receive those records back related to the phone number associated with the handset of Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Also, I don't like his shoes.
All right.
Abate
Now, I
is
want
his
to ask
name.
you a few questions about other sets of records that you reviewed in relation to the information you had received from Mr. Zachary and Mr. Copeland after reviewing their statements, okay?
Okay.
Did you request either through search warrant or subpoena the records for Justin Cobb?
I don't know if it was me that did that, but yeah, we did obtain the records for Justin Cobb.
Okay. And
Actually, no, I believe it was. I recall drafting a search warrant on that, so yes.
okay. As well as did you receive either whether it was by you or another member of law enforcement you were working in conjunction with the records for Mr. McMullins?
That McMullen was somebody with the Atlanta Police Department, but I did receive them.
And did you review them?
I did.
All right. And regardless of who requested them, did you also review the records for Kelvin Treadwell?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you about specifically, did you review those records kind of how you've described today as it relates to January 10th of 2015?
Yes.
Now, I want to talk about some of the activity that you
Did y'all
saw
notice that
as
Sprinkle and
you,
this guy are like
did the
identical?
review of the records. Specifically, can you tell the jurors, you talked about you received records from Mr. Bradford based on the phone number being a common number called by Mr. Zachary, Mr. Copeland, and Mr. Treadwell, I believe you said, correct?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors in reviewing the call detail records, did you review the records as it relates to the point of interest of the Texaco off of Cleveland Avenue?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, as you reviewed Mr. Bradford's records in relation to
I thought he was Sprinkle too.
Texaco, what you determined from your analysis?
What I determined from my analysis of Mr. Bradford's tower logs.
You know how I realized the new lawyer guy isn't Sprinkle? Is because the defense didn't say anything about, like, hey, this is a witness. He can't also be the lawyer. That's confusing. And so since the defense didn't say anything about also Sprinkle being here, I was like, he can't be Sprinkle. And so I Googled it.
Previously, as it relates to the Texaco off of Cleveland, as well as
This is
the
their
barbershop.
triplet here, Atkins. You know, in most triplets, like two look exactly alike and one kind of looks different. That's Atkins.
Not far from the Texaco.
Right, the barber shop, like between 60 and 100 yards, yes, away. Yeah, that too.
And I want to show you state's exhibits
I don't like his shoes either, by the way.
591,
I don't like those white soles.
591Y through 598Y.
So does Sprinkle need glasses or not?
And prior to your testimony, have you had an opportunity to review those photographs?
I did.
And do those photographs contained in State's Exhibit 591Y through 598 fairly and accurately depict the Texaco from July 10th of 2015?
January 10th, 2015?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes, they do.
They do have the same sassiness, Veronica.
These are screenshots. It looks like they're screenshots I took, actually.
And, Your Honor, at this time, the state pretender was marked as State's Exhibits 591Y through 598Y.
Admitted.
And while we're at it, Mr. Sprinkle, previously admitted into evidence was 292YL through N. Review those. Do you also recognize those as screenshots from what you've described from the Texaco that you actually took?
Yes.
Now, can you describe for the jurors in State's Exhibit 591Y what we're looking at?
This is a screenshot taken from the video from the Texaco. It was a surveillance camera that captured the exterior of the Texaco station. This would be the gas pumps that were closest to 330 McDaniel Street. The timestamp in the lower on the video is 6:41 p.m. and 58 seconds. Literally, it's 18:41:58, but that's 24-hour time, so it's 6:41 p.m. and 58 seconds.
Okay. And is there a vehicle, do you see the vehicle, I guess that's in the center of State's Exhibit 591Y?
Yes, I do.
And through, I guess, your investigation, can you tell the jurors what you're able to determine what type of vehicle that is?
2001 Pontiac Bonneville gray in color.
And in conjunction with all the things that we've described that you've reviewed, the statements, the call detail records, the video surveillance, I know you briefly spoke about it, but did you also review different social media accounts and photographs as it relates to some of the individuals, specifically here, Mr. Bradford, that we've described previously?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors in your review of Mr. Bradford's social media and contained in previously admitted exhibits States Exhibits 360Y through 363Y, what you found in Mr. Bradford's social media that caught your attention.
He often posed in photos with a 2001 Pontiac Bonneville. He'd be leaning up against it, et cetera. It looked like it was just a car that he was with frequently.
Okay. And prior to your review of
A car he
Mr.
was with
Bradford's
frequently.
social media account and seeing these photographs with him with standing next to or near a Pontiac, had the Pontiac that's contained in States Exhibit 591Y, I guess, been an integral part of your investigation at that point?
Well, not integral, no.
Okay.
Morning,
Was it
Purple
something
Paradox.
Was it something that you found or didn't find relevant until you reviewed Mr. Bradford's social media accounts?
Sustained. Can you?
Well, let me ask you this question. Just tell the jurors, after reviewing or finding these photographs of Mr. Bradford and the Pontiac, how you were able to use that to forward your investigation.
Okay, so I had the tower data for Mr. Bradford's phone that placed him in the area of the crime scene from 7:11 p.m. to 7:19 p.m. I had calls from the jail to Mr. Bradford. I also had these pictures from his social media that I found that showed him with a Pontiac Bonneville. Now, Bradford was not known, he was not in any of the documents that I obtained from the Atlanta Police Department. As far as I knew, he was unknown to the investigation entirely, so I was trying to figure out who this Mr. Bradford was, why I had this data that, this information was made it appear that he was somehow would at least know something about what I was looking into. And so when I went back and looked at the video and I saw this 2001 Pontiac Bonneville pull up to the gas pump, that's when it clicked. And I started paying particular attention to the surveillance video from the Texaco station.
Okay, and I want to show you, Mr. Atkins is going to put on the screen a States Exhibit.
Okay, Atkins running the screen. I see what's up.
598Y.
They're working so well together. Revoff says, we have proven that Woody is bald, Gaither can't breathe, Dennis got bumped, and Love and Hilton are, it's not that they don't know the law, it's just that they're
States Exhibit
incapable.
598Y. Can you describe to the jurors what they're looking at and the relevance it was to your part of the investigation?
How's that the same? 'Cause the one on the right looks white.
598Y is a picture from Mr. Bradford's Instagram page, and it is one of a few photos that showed him next to a Pontiac Bonneville, like I testified to previously. And I obtained that photo around the time that I identified his phone number and got his phone records and tower usage data that placed him in the area of the crime scene, as I testified to previously.
And the photograph that's next to him standing next to the Pontiac. Can you describe to the jurors where that's from? There's two photos
Was it the one
contained within.
he just
How are
described?
they relevant to each other?
Well, the one on the right is
the fuck?
a still shot from the surveillance footage from the night of the murder, from the Texaco
So
station.
Abate's not really a good lawyer either.
And
What?
can you tell the jurors in your review of the video surveillance, you said in States Exhibit 591Y that Pontiac arrived to the Texaco at what time?
About 6:41 p.m.
And can you tell the jurors in your review of the surveillance how long in total was that Pontiac seen on the video surveillance?
If I may refer to my reports, I get the numbers.
If it will help refresh your recollection, yes, just look up when you're done.
Oh, you're right, K-Wait. This one has a sunroof. Right, this
So it was there. The Pontiac was in view of the surveillance cameras at the Texaco station when it pulled up into the pump at 6:41 p.m. and until it drove away from the station at 7:17 p.m.
So fair to say, reviewing your report helped refresh your recollection as to how long it was there?
Yes.
Okay. And you said it was roughly 40 minutes?
Yeah, about that.
And can you tell the jurors in your review of Mr. Bradford's call detail records, was that consistent with him being, or were they consistent with him being in the area of the Texaco off of Cleveland Avenue for roughly 40 minutes?
Interesting.
Yeah, but his phone traveled to the Texaco off of Cleveland Avenue after it departed the area, or not, excuse me, are you talking about the McDonald's?
No, so you just described to the jurors, let me rephrase my question. So that you saw the Pontiac remain at the Texaco for roughly 40 minutes. You remember saying that?
Yes, yes.
41 to, I think you believe, 7:17?
6:41 to 7:17, correct.
That's a long time.
Can you tell the jurors in reviewing Mr. Bradford's call detail records and the activity on his phone during 6:11 and 7:17, were they consistent with him being in the area of the Texaco during that time period?
At the Texaco at Northside Drive, McDaniel Street, yes. His phone pinged in that area from 7:11 to 7:19. It utilized the tower, so it didn't ping at the tower that entire time, but the time frame that his phone did ping at the tower, off the tower and sector service, that general area, was encompassed, by the surveillance footage.
Let me ask you this question. Was his phone, or was there activity on his phone during that entire period of time, or were there times where his phone wasn't utilizing a tower?
Well, his phone, wasn't connected to the tower the entire time, as if it was like streaming data or something like that, or if it was, I didn't get any records that indicated that. It was only used, it only connected to the tower to when it was sending or receiving a phone call.
Okay. And as a part of your investigation, did you also review or look into the social media accounts, or the Twitter account for Mr. Kendrick?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors in State's Exhibit I believe it's 524Y. Was this a photograph that you located from the Twitter account of Mr. Kendrick?
How can you authenticate
Once it's
this
up there.
photograph? How can you authenticate something you find on Twitter? I can't authenticate anything I find on Twitter. It doesn't even make sense to me.
Yes. Yeah, it is. There's a, and I don't know that it's part of the exhibit because I seem to remember this.
We've already
this
seen
gray
this.
bar
Why are
on
we
the
seeing this
screen
again?
with the other exhibits as well. Yeah, now it's moved. But yes, I do recognize that. That's an image from Mr. Kendrick's Twitter account.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, was there anything about the jacket that Mr. Kendrick is wearing in State's Exhibit 524Y that you, after seeing this and also reviewing the video surveillance, that was helpful to your investigation?
So yeah, the interior surveillance from the Texaco, at 6:41, the Pontiac
Take the photo
2001
down.
Bonneville pulls up to a pump, and the front seat passenger exits the vehicle and walks into the convenience store attached to the Texaco, and in so doing, came in very close proximity to an interior surveillance camera. And so this footage revealed the outfit donned by the front seat passenger, and that image from the Twitter page that you just displayed on the monitor behind me, or the television behind me, that man, Mr. Kendrick from the Twitter page, was donning what appeared to be the same jacket as the man from the video, the surveillance video from the Texaco.
And is that what we're looking at, the comparison that you just described?
Yeah, that's him. That's the same jacket.
That's the, yes.
I was gonna say that's not conclusory. Yeah. Oh yeah, it is.
Photograph. We're looking at it on the left-hand side from the convenience store. Can you tell the jurors the time period in which that photograph or that screenshot would have captured?
It was very shortly after the Pontiac Bonneville arrived on scene. If you would like the exact, matter of fact, I've just looked at my report to refresh my recollection about this. It was actually at 6:42 p.m.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors in the photograph to the right from Mr. Kendrick's Twitter account what time that photo of Mr. Kendrick was posted and on what date?
It was posted on January 10th, 2015. As you can see there, because I testified about this previously, I moused over the date, and that made the time pop up, and the time is 7:35 p.m.
Now, as you continued to review the video surveillance, can you tell the jurors, did the individuals that you saw, I guess, exit and enter the Pontiac later interact with another sedan?
Yes.
And in State's Exhibit 594Y, and here I thought the screenshots would be less difficult than the freezing video.
One thing, if I was
Objection, Your
defense,
Honor. This is cumulative of prior testimony that we've had at least once, if not twice, in this case.
agreed. I would ask them to move that
In
phone number
response.
poster. If I was defense,
I mean, there's been no,
Is this going to be a comparison?
yes.
Okay, overruled.
oh my god,
Now, can you tell the jurors, were you able to,
a comparison of what?
I guess using your number of years of experience, able to determine the type of vehicle in which we're seeing depicted in front of the Pontiac in the middle of the screen?
The Volkswagen CC VR6 Sport.
Okay. And when you previously testified, you talked about someone you had, I guess, a name that you had come across during your investigation, Miss Ariel Bax.
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, in getting her name, were you able to use public databases to determine any vehicles registered in her name?
Yes, I was.
And can you tell the jurors what type of vehicle was registered Ms. Back's name during this time period of January 10th, 2015?
The Volkswagen CC VR6.
Okay. And in your review of
If I'm the defense, I'm saying bring down the exhibits. Let's take them
the
both
make and
down.
model and year that Ms. Bax had, was the vehicle consistent with what we're looking at in State's Exhibit 594Y?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, you also talked about previously an individual, Miss Kenya Morton.
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors why you looked into Miss Morton as it relates to this investigation?
I'll object to the reasoning behind what this witness is doing, otherwise.
Sustained. Can you rephrase?
Yes. In the phone calls that you reviewed and have described today from Mr. Kendrick, did Mr. Kendrick place any calls to Miss Morton?
Yes.
And through your listening of the calls and your investigation, were you able to determine how Mr. Kendrick and Miss Morton were associated or knew each other?
Romantically involved.
Objection.
It's a review of phone calls that are...
You don't know that. That's speculation. Exactly.
Sustained.
It's
Well, without telling me what the association was, were you
Why does it even matter?
able to see several calls between Miss Morton and Mr. Kendrick?
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, in one of the phone calls that you listened to and has been admitted into evidence as it relates to Mr. Arnold, did you hear Miss Morton in one of the phone calls?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors the date of the phone call in which you heard Miss Morton in the background?
January 10th, 2015,
What time?
7:42 p.m.
Okay. And that time in relation to, how was that time, the 7:42 p.m. that you heard this morning in the background, related to or the time in which Mr. Donovan Thomas was shot and killed?
Well, the 911 call was placed contemporaneously with the shooting, and that 911 call was placed at 7:22 p.m., so that call was 20 minutes after the night.
Subject to speculation, unless there's a foundation,
On the what?
the contemporaneous.
Sustained.
Because I need clarity. I'm not certain it's the contemporaneous. I know what it
I
means.
don't know if he is able to testify from anything that it was contemporaneous with the murder. I think that's what the objection is to, is that right? I mean, he can testify to what time the 911 call was.
I'll rephrase.
Sustained.
Agreed. I'll ask a different question. Mr. Sprinkle, you said the 911 call was at what time?
7:22 p.m.
And the call in which you heard Ms. Morton's voice and reference to her name was at what time?
7:42 p.m.
Okay. And during that same phone call, was there reference to Miss Ariel or Ari?
Who the fuck
That
is
I
that?
don't recall.
Okay. And
Who's Ari? Do you guys
So
remember
this-
Ariel?
this
I don't
question.
remember even hearing that name before.
shortly after the Volkswagen in States Exhibit 494Y arrived at the gas station, can you tell the jurors and previously admitted in, I believe they're before you, States Exhibit?
Yeah, the only lawyer for the prosecution that takes the judge's rulings is Atkins.
Can you tell the jurors what time another vehicle that you determined to be related to your investigation arrived at that same Texaco?
7:16 p.m.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, based on the statement of Quindarius Zachary, why that vehicle was of interest as you watched the video surveillance from the Texaco?
Because it was an Infiniti Q50.
Well, we had an expert say it was a Q35, so we don't actually know what kind of Infinity
Can
was
you tell
used.
the jurors during what time did that Infiniti arrive?
7:16 p.m.
Okay. And at the
That was
time
asked and answered.
that you reviewed the video surveillance, can you tell the jurors, did members from the Pontiac interact with the vehicle depicted in this state's exhibit?
Yeah, yes. The man that occupied the front passenger seat and then entered the store at 6:42 p.m. wearing the coat, he interacted with the person or persons occupying the Infiniti.
And I apologize for the record, that's 292YL. Now, Mr. Sprinkle, can you also describe for the jurors, did an individual get out of the rear passenger area of the Pontiac?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jurors
Robin, that's probably the
can you
fans.
explain to the jurors what you
It's still
observed,
hot in Dallas
that
right now.
person, I guess, do?
Objection, cumulative, best evidence.
Sustained.
This is cumulative as fuck, guys. We've already gone through all this shit. We know about the Infinity. We know who was in it. We know who was in the Bonneville. We know they went into the goddamn store. Like, I don't
Mr. Sprinkle,
understand
how
we're doing this
long,
again.
based on your review of the video surveillance, did the Infinity remain within the Texaco gas pump area?
About a minute, if that. It pulled in at 7:16 and pulled out at 7:17.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors, is that what we're looking at in State's Exhibit 596Y?
Yes. You may.
Okay. While they're talking, I'm Lauren Cadillac, Cadillac Law. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Oh, we're not gonna approach? Okay, let's approach. All right, thanks everyone for joining us. We're watching the YSL RICO trial live this morning. They're discussing an objection. This week has been hilarious. The triplets. So we have detective, also lawyer Sprinkle, Atkins, and Abate, or Abate as I'm gonna call him. And oh my God, they look exactly alike. I said, Belinda, is it a requirement to look like that if you're a white dude and you want to work for the Fulton County DA? Interestingly, Belinda then went into a research rabbit hole and she found the Fulton County DA like quarterly newsletter, which is basically like a Fawny magazine in PDF form. Every single cover but one that Belinda found had Fawny on the front, every single one. And every single issue that Belinda found, they had Atkins in there. He was like, he had achieved something. He did something really good. No sign of Miss Love or Miss Hilton anywhere. Of course, Abate was in there because, you know, he's Fawny's defense attorney. So, oh man. All right, well, on Monday, Abate comes in and Love isn't there. And it's probably the best day of our lives. And the judge thanked the state for being so much better.
Now, Mr. Sprinkle, let me ask you this question. Based on your review of all the information you've kind of described here today, as it relates to times for
sorry, guys.
When a 911 call was placed, times as it relates to, I guess, found within call detail records, and then times like the one you just referenced in the video surveillance for the Texaco. Can you tell the jurors, I guess, through your investigation, how you compared, I guess, times from the video surveillance to things like the 911 call and call detail records?
Well, your call detail records, that's the times in those are going to be pretty consistent with, you know, the atomic clock. You know.
Why is that?
Can't hear you, Sprinkle.
Cell phone provider, and they're computerized records, and they're just going to be synced up because they're on a computer system with the internet time protocol or the atomic, synced up with the atomic clock. So that's a good gauge to the exact time zone. Also, the 911 call, the 911 call system. I found in my experience that 911 calls, the timestamps on those were accurate.
Okay, for some reason, the mic is on the court reporter, but not on Sprinkle. That's why you hear that clicking noise. That's the court reporter.
Surveillance videos can be a little less so.
Monk Talk's hearing's at 4 today.
Knowing when the 911 call is placed, and comparing all of that with cell phone records and tower logs and all that. The surveillance, when comparing, for example, the 911 call to surveillance video from the Texaco in particular, you can see the events that are.
Is he still talking?
On the Texaco, which people ran inside the store. I do remember they did. And from that, you can place a pretty good timestamp or time when the drive-by shooting occurred.
That was the longest answer ever.
In your testimony today that all of the times are, I guess, synced up exact as it relates to each other. For example, the call detail records and the Texaco video surveillance.
No, I can say that they're linked up exactly. Surveillance videos, it's not uncommon to be a matter.
Oh, Cherry, you're making me jealous.
Can you speak into the mic?
It's not uncommon for surveillance videos to be
Gosh.
a minute or two off. So I can't say that basically the watches of the surveillance video and the cell phone records were synchronized.
Okay. And we talked earlier a little bit about the phone records or the additional phone records that you reviewed. For example, Justin Cobb and Mr. McMullins. Do you remember that?
I do.
And can you tell the jurors upon receiving those records, however which way they were requested, did you utilize, I guess, reviewing those records as it relates to the things that we've described previously here today, the video surveillance as well as the statements of both Mr. Zachary and Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
And I want to draw your attention specifically to the time period, roughly 7:29 p.m. All the way, I guess, 10 minutes to 7:39 p.m. So that 10-minute period, okay?
Okay.
Can you tell the jurors in your review
Look at his foot.
of that
Look at his
activity,
foot. What is he doing? I've never seen anyone do that with their foot before.
was there, was there any activity as it relates to the handset associated with Mr. McMullins and the handset associated with Jeffrey Williams?
Cumulative, Agent Bernie.
Yeah, no shit. We already talked about all
Sustained.
this. 100% of this has been cumulative. And let's take down that chart, y'all. Let's put away the phone number
As it
chart.
relates to your review of the call detail record, specifically the call logs of between Mr. Williams and Mr. Treadwell. Can you tell the jury how many incoming and outgoing calls there were between Mr. Treadwell and Mr. Williams?
About the same objection.
Sustained.
The
Can we move
specific
along?
number of calls between Mr. Treadwell and Mr. Williams, I don't believe
Already
was
been
ever
talked about.
discussed.
Yes, it has.
Pretty sure.
All the shit. Painfully, that's right.
All right, I'll ask you this question. As it related to your review of the call detail records for Mr. Copeland, okay? Did you, during that time period of 7:29 to 7:39 p.m., locate any calls, whether it be incoming or outgoing, between Mr. Copeland and Mr. Williams?
7:29 to 7:39?
Correct.
If I may look at the logs. No, my short answer is I don't believe so. And that remains my answers on reviewing the actual phone logs. There were no calls between Mr. Copeland and Mr. Williams. That would have been in the phone logs from the company. Again, during Mr. Copeland's statement, he said he called Mr. Williams earlier that evening on FaceTime. FaceTime calls are not going to appear in phone records from the phone company.
Okay. But from your review, is it your testimony you didn't see any calls between Mr. Copeland and Mr. Williams?
That's right.
How about as it relates to Mr. Copeland and Mr. Bradford, Mr. Cobb, Mr. McMullins, or Mr. Treadwell?
Not that I found, no.
Okay, and I'd ask you the same series of questions as it relates to Quindarius Zachary. Did you see any activity on Mr. Zachary's records between Mr. Williams, Mr. Bradford, Mr. Cobb, Mr. McMullins, and Mr. Treadwell?
All right, well, I'm reviewing, I'm looking at his records right now, too, just to make sure I'm not mistaken. What were the names that you just gave me again?
Mr. Williams, did you see any activity as it relates to Mr. Zachary and Mr. Williams?
I do not.
And between Mr. Zachary and Mr. Bradford and Mr. Cobb?
I do not.
And were there any, incoming or outgoing calls between Mr. Zachary and Mr. McMullins or Mr. Treadwell?
How are
Not
these
that I
questions
see,
helping
no.
the state? Why is he
And,
asking
I
these
wanna ask you
questions?
lastly about Mr. Antonio Sledge. In your review of his call detail records, did you see any incoming or outgoing calls between Mr. Sledge and Mr. Williams between the time period of 7:29 p.m. to 7:39 p.m.?
Like, these lack of phone calls help the defense, in my opinion, so I don't really understand why we're going through this. Also, I feel like we already went through this already. We already talked about all this crap. The nut murder, we have, like, beat the dead horse. I'm exhausted. So is Paige. Paige is really starting to lose her patience, and I'm loving it. I love watching
No,
her
I don't
get
see
less
any.
patient.
What about between Mr. Sledge and Mr. Bradford or Mr. Cobb?
We're going to talk about Woody. Don't worry, we're going to talk about Woody. He made it onto my thumbnail. What is curious
Between what
to me?
time frame again?
7:29 and 7:39 p.m.
Justin Cobb called Javaris Bradford at 7:31 p.m.
And I'm sorry, I need to be more clear. Did you see any, was there any incoming or outgoing calls between Mr. Zachary and Mr. Bradford?
So Woody was allowed to sit in the courtroom during his sister's testimony. And I think that's really weird. Like, I know they dismissed him as a witness, but like, since he was a witness, it's strange to me that they let him sit there during her testimony. It really, really is. Then he wheels the sister's boyfriend's grandma in.
I do not see any.
And in your review of Mr. Zachary records, did you see any incoming or outgoing calls between Mr. Zachary and Mr. McMullen?
By the way, Mr. McMullen's first name is Demise. Demise, Demise.
No, I don't see any.
And lastly, for that same time period, did you see any activity, whether it be incoming or outgoing calls, between Mr. Zachary and Mr. Treadwell?
Demise. Y'all know what demise means, like the end of, right? Like, why would you ever name a human Demise?
No, I don't see any.
And when you're reviewing Mr. Zachary's records, which are contained in State's Exhibit 517Y.
It's like naming your kid
is that
Judas
correct?
or something. It's crazy. Don't do that.
Is that correct?
Don't do that.
Is-
Ridiculous.
The records contained for Mr. Zachary, do you recall those being 517Y?
I don't know the exact, the exhibit number for the records.
Okay.
Look at that left foot. What does he do? Why is he doing that? Do any of y'all do that? Where you like hold up? I don't. I mean, I guess maybe if I'm in heels and I'm trying to like get some relief or something. Robin, it is my belief that the state hasn't thought about anything. They're just, on a rampage. Typically, the government is favored by juries, and it seems to me that this Fulton County has just gone after people willy-nilly, and juries have gone with it because, they tend to go with the government, whether or not the government has a case.
Anybody have questions for this witness right now that are gonna last less than like an hour?
Less than an hour?
Yeah,
Oh, I hope so.
okay. Come on,
He's normally in
If I'm
heels.
not gonna have to start throwing things in.
okay.
Can we do that even if it is less than an hour?
Okay, well, things are actually going smoother between the lawyers now that the new guy's on there.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
My favorite.
I'm good. And of course, we know each other. You know who I represent, right?
Yes.
Okay. I want to start out by talking to you about the jail calls and specifically my client Shannon Stillwell's jail calls.
Okay.
I believe you testified that you downloaded. You estimated, I believe, 700.
So, yes, the batch that I downloaded.
He's already
from
stuttering.
2015, maybe the calls descended into 2016 as well. I don't remember. I think it was around 700 audio files, so that would represent 700 calls. It's not 700 exactly, but that's what I remember.
I understand. And you, do you have a ballpark of how many you reviewed?
I didn't review all of them.
Okay.
And a matter of fact, I probably reviewed like maybe 50 to 75.
Okay. And regardless of how many you personally reviewed, when you downloaded them, they are saved onto your computer, your hard drive.
All of them are saved, yes.
Okay, and they would have been passed on to the prosecution team in this case, so they could review all of them, correct?
That's correct.
All right, cool. All right, I just want to, your job actually with the DA's office right now is you do prelims. You cover prelims for cases, correct? Amongst other things.
That's correct.
All right. And I just want to unpack a little bit about what you said about preliminary hearings, is when I say prelims, preliminary hearings. You said typically a lead detective testifies.
That's right.
Okay, and you said hearsay is allowed, meaning the lead detective is allowed to testify about what other people said.
That's correct.
Okay. And you are aware that jail call that was played that was tough to hear, a little bit low, that was from November 19th, 2015, correct?
That's right.
All right. And November 19th, 2015 is the day that Shannon Stillwell had his prelim, correct?
That's what I recall, yes.
Okay. And that's why you had interest in that call.
That's right.
All right. And that call was made later in the day after Mr. Stillwell would have returned back to the jail from his preliminary hearing.
That's right.
All right. In Mr. Stillwell's preliminary hearing specifically, I know you said lead detectives generally are the only ones that testified. Detective Thorpe testified in that preliminary hearing, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Kenneth Copeland did not testify.
No.
Demekion Garlington did not testify.
No.
Quindarius Zachary did not testify.
No.
Okay. And I know it's hard to hear, but we're going to bring some volume to it, okay? Mr. Stillwell on that call said, I just went to court and they let everything out.
That sounds right, yes.
Okay, and that was after Detective Thorpe testified, correct?
That's right, after he heard Detective Thorpe's testimony. Correct.
Okay, he said they threw out, and it was tough to hear, so I want to make sure we're clear. On that call, he said they threw out Yak, Duop, Nard, correct?
I don't recall that they threw out
And
Yak.
I'm not suggesting throughout the case. I'm saying throughout the names.
That sounds right. I definitely heard him mention those names.
Okay.
So I took it to mean maybe like their names were mentioned, maybe?
Right. And because it was hard to hear, I'm just trying to make it clear. He's not saying, and nowhere in that call did he say he was with those people or anything like that day.
No.
Okay. And again, those names were mentioned by Detective Thorpe, correct?
That's right.
All right, cool. And he was, well, you can't testify to his mind state, but in that call, he said F word D, Woody, and the other D, correct?
I don't know. Yeah, that's not a verbatim quote. It's pretty close. I mean, I think the spirit of his comment was captured in your quotation there.
Okay, and then he said, them F N-words know what is going on.
Something along those lines, yeah.
And then that's the case that was, that's the tape that was played in court today, but there are 8 other calls on that CD, correct?
Correct.
All right. You also listened in on another call that Mr. Stillwell had with that same young lady on November 23rd, 2015, correct?
I think so. That sounds right.
At 16:08, at 4:08 p.m.
That sounds correct.
All right. At 5:07 into that call, Mr. Stillwell says, N-words will say whatever, correct?
That sounds correct. I know that was the general spirit. I don't know if that's an exact quotation as to what he said.
Okay. At 5:15 in that call, Mr. Stillwell said, they just trying to get the heat off their ass.
Again, that sounds like the general, that was something along the lines of what he said, that was the topic of conversation. I just can't say if that was a verbatim quote or not.
And again, Mr. Copeland at that time was facing federal and state charges.
That's right.
And Mr. Zachary, the other D, was facing charges related to the April 28th, 2015 shooting of houses, correct?
That's right.
All right. Mr. Stillwell in that November 23rd, 2015 call said, people will say anything to save their ass.
That's evidence. Mr. Sharp like to play the calls.
Play the call.
Sustained.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Shard is so great, y'all. He is just.
It is in evidence. Trying to save some time, but
I appreciate that, but if there's a valid objection, I've got to sustain it.
okay.
Well, then let's play it.
All right.
Thank you.
I twisted his arm. Also in that call, and this is just one more, then we'll move on. Mr. Stillwell said, they will sit right there and lie.
I don't recall that exact utterance being made, but it wouldn't be inconsistent with the general tone and of the call and the other things that he was saying.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
All right. Regarding Mr. Copeland's cell records and the plotting you did, let me get this right. 722 is the 911 call.
Yes.
Okay. You said at 726 you have Mr. Copeland headset pinging on the tower. So 4 minutes later, he's pinging on the tower at the green store or in the vicinity of the green store.
That is correct. It had moved north to that tower, so it was actually south of that tower seconds prior to, but yes.
Well, you don't actually, cell phone records aren't like a chart where you see, for instance, a cursor moving through a map, are they? You don't see real-time movements during a call, do you?
No.
You just get spots in certain points in time.
Yes, that's
when cell calls are initiated.
That is well. You get the tower and the antenna utilized by the handset at the time of the call. It's a very big area.
But just at the time,
good.
Right? Vague area, but also just at the time of the initiation of the call.
Correct.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
And so 4 minutes after the purported time of the 911 call, that headset is utilizing the tower near the green store.
That's right.
Okay. And we also, the truth is, we can speculate. We don't know how much time passed. We know the 911 call was made at 7:22, but we don't know how much time passed between the shooting and the 911 call, do we?
No, I can't say exactly. I from what I recall, it's pretty quickly, but I can't say the exact seconds.
Well, we don't, people, before they call 911, they can try to hide guns, right?
There's any number of things people can do before they call 911.
They can try to get guns before they call 911.
The possibilities are endless as to what somebody could do before they call 911.
And some people will do certain things before they call the police to where they're at.
Speculation.
Sustained.
It is
Well,
speculative.
the bottom line is we don't know how much time passed. So we're dealing with inexact times.
Yes.
Okay, great. And you would agree that the green store is within a minute drive of the barbershop?
It's pretty close. I don't know. I can't say if it's a minute, but it's less than a mile away.
Less than a mile away. Thank you. All right. Finally, I'm just going to ask you about one other matter. Javaris Bradford has come up, a.k.a. Tudor, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Tudor?
He's the owner of, through your investigator, he's the owner of the Pontiac at the Texaco.
Yeah, from what I recall, he was the registered owner.
Right. And he came up in your investigation, and the fact that Pontiac was on the video piqued your interest.
That's what I said. Yep.
All right. At some point in November of 2018, he wasn't charged in 2015.
He wasn't.
Okay. In November of 2018, he was still in the community, correct? He wasn't in jail or anything.
That's right.
All right. And you determined that you wanted to speak to him.
I did.
All right. And did you reach out to him?
I don't think I reached out to him. It was likely a DA's office investigator. Somebody reached out to him.
Okay. And was he asked to come in? Was he compelled to come into the DA's office? How did that work?
I believe we gave him a grand jury subpoena, if I remember correctly.
Okay, you issued a grand jury subpoena for him to come in and speak to you?
Well, the grand jury was in session that day. Having never spoken to him, I wanted to speak with him before I potentially put him up before the grand jury, and I did end up speaking with him, and at that point I determined that not to put him up.
Okay, that was November 13th, 2018, correct?
That's correct.
And you had a meeting with him in a conference room in the DA's office, correct?
Right, it was on video. I have it right here, actually.
Yes. And present were you, Investigator Thorpe, at some point came into the meeting, correct?
Investigator Thorpe, I think he was present the entire meeting.
Okay.
It's on video, but from what I remember, he was there the entire time.
Okay. And then I don't want to mess up the young lady's name, so I'm not even going to try, but there was an investigator with the DA's office. Could you say her name correctly?
Cynthia Nwakocha.
Nwakocha.
Cynthia, first name, last name, Nwokocha, I believe.
Okay. Thank you. And Javaris Bradford showed up, correct?
That's correct.
He did not have an attorney.
He did not.
And he showed up to the conference room without an attorney, correct?
Sustained.
Okay. For this meeting, you had video from the Texaco, or was it stills or video?
There were definitely stills. I think it may have, I can't recall if I played motion pictures of the surveillance video or I just had stills. He was at the very least showed still images.
And you told him, in fact, that you were investigating the homicide of Donovan Thomas.
You're not there for your sake to point us to what Mr. Sprinkle told Mr. Bradford.
What was his objection? Wait,
To
what?
I'm not asking what Mr. Bradford told Mr. Sprinkle. I'm asking what Mr. Sprinkle told Mr. Bradford.
Oh, okay. Overruled.
It's not being offered for the truth of the matter,
Y'all
sir.
can ask him, he's right here.
Okay. So you told him that there was evidence against him in this case.
I don't recall exactly what I said. I likely said that to him. I would go so far as to say as yes, I did. That would
report. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yes, I'm sure I said that to him because there was.
Okay. And you wanted him to speak to you about who was at the Texaco, correct?
I did.
Okay. And you told him that your supervisor wanted to charge him, but you were holding things off to give him a chance to talk.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
You're wrong.
Sustained.
Okay.
And you just want to get it out, so it doesn't matter.
Let me ask you this. Was your supervisor Pat Dutcher at the time?
He was in.
Sustained.
Your Honor, may we approach?
You may.
Okay, I definitely don't understand why who the supervisor is would be relevant, but I guess they're going to talk about it right now. While they talk about it, I'm Lauren Cadilac, and we are watching today's live hearing in the Young Thug trial. So yesterday, the judge closed and said, oh, a juror has a flight out for a funeral, and so we have to be done before 4 on Friday. While I do believe that is true, I know for a fact that at 4 p.m. there is going to be the Monk-Tunk plea removal. That's not the word. The Monk-Tunk, they're trying to revoke the plea deal with Monk-Tunk, and they're going to have the hearing today at 4. which is like the fucking worst, right? Because for him, if it's revoked, he has to go to jail at like 5 on a Friday. That sucks. He didn't get the weekend. I do think it is likely that the probation will be revoked, or I'm sorry, the plea agreement will be revoked, due to the fact that Monk Tunk and his attorney both testified that if they had seen that, like paragraph 8, I think it was, they would not have signed it. And they both testified that Adrian Love like squeezed that in last minute, and they didn't know it was there when they agreed to it. And so because they testified that, I do think there's a high chance of the revocation of the plea. Now, what I don't know, and maybe, I don't know, maybe some of you guys do, but what I don't know is if they revoke the plea, does that mean he gets to have a trial? I would hope so. I would certainly hope so, but I have no idea. So that is going to be interesting. I'll do a little research on that as we go along. Yesterday, I was ready to go live with a whole mistrial, y'all. Oh my God. I was so sure we were going to have a mistrial this time. And Whitaker came out and she said, look, that detective knew better. He should have known better. But I don't think the prosecution did it on purpose. So we'll talk about it when we get back. So she sanctioned basically the detective, let the trial carry on.
Your Honor, based on the court's ruling, I do not have any more questions, and I'll know with like 50 minutes to spare.
That is correct. All right, is any other defense attorney going to have questions for Mr. Sprinkle?
Briefly.
Okay, all right, I think we can fit in another one or maybe two.
I think you could probably fit them all in if they're that quick, honestly. They're going to have to go to lunch someday. You know, the time on the new ticker here on Long Crime is really off.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sprinkle. Or AD
Yeah,
Sprinkle.
it's
Good afternoon.
12:11
How are
there.
you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Very well.
Can I just look at this?
Yes.
You can see this demonstrative, right?
I can.
I don't see Mr. Kendrick's phone on there.
That is correct.
So you didn't do any analysis for Mr. Kendrick's phone on January the 10th, 2015.
I was without records to analyze for Mr. Kendrick's phone.
Okay, so you have no records of his phone on that date, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Weinstein
Anybody
is so good. He doesn't talk a lot, but when he does, he makes a damn impact. That was beautiful. And you see how he fucked with their demonstrative? That's the best, to be able to fuck with their demonstratives. It'd be great if you could have a witness come up like Dora or Dolly and be like, no, that's not my number. And then just put a big red X through their
Afternoon,
evidence.
sir.
Good afternoon. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. How you doing, sir?
Very well.
I'll actually let you know if I'm okay. Can I ask you some questions?
Well, yes, please.
Thank you. So, I want to just go into a few different topics. The way this was set up in your office, and you specifically work in this case, I think you made it clear. I'm going to be very brief, but if I'm wrong, just say I got it wrong. Law enforcement officers with whomever, FBI, APD, GBI, whomever is working the case, eventually your office may get involved and summon, or they give to you their work product or their files on the case. Fair to say?
That's fair to say, yes.
And then what you're doing is, because you're law enforcement, but you're the arm of the attorneys who come to court, you have to look at everything and prepare it or not prepare it for any type of charges.
That's right.
All right. And when I say charge, I mean formal charge. I know, ladies and gentlemen, know police can issue warrants, but warrants aren't an official charging document. That would be an accusation or a bill of indictment.
Yes.
Okay.
When you got, and I'm focused only on this case, obviously, okay? When you get the file, you're getting the files from everybody who touched the case, as far as you could tell, from crime labs, from law enforcement, APD, GBI, whomever. I'm not eliminating, I'm not trying to keep out other agencies, but you try to get all those files together.
Well, yeah, I try to get all the documents or whatever media that every agency that investigated the case has. I mean, I want to get as much as possible.
Sure. Now, when you get the APD files, Atlanta Police Department files, and you start looking at them and reviewing them, I want to ask you if you can remember. Do you remember any notation from Detective Thorpe that he reviewed the McDonald's surveillance video from January 10th, evening, January 10th, 2015, and he did that on or about January 11th or January 12th, 2015?
I don't, and I feel like I
Relentless.
would remember that.
Tell the jurors why you remember that, if you don't mind.
This
Well,
man
the
is relentless.
McDonald's, as they've heard, was the McDonald's at Old Hateville and Cleveland Avenue.
151 Cleveland Avenue?
Yeah, I think that's the address. Whatever. It's at the intersection, at or near the intersection of Old. Yes, I believe that's the address. What you just said. And that was said to be a rendezvous point, the parking lot of which. So I would have remembered I would have remembered it because, first of all, I've never seen that video. I've never seen any surveillance video from McDonald's. So if I were to read something that said from a law enforcement officer said they did review it, I would have said, well, I would have remembered. That would have been a big thing for me. I would want to have had the video. So no, I don't recall any notations from Detective Thorpe about him reviewing the video and not obtaining it, presumably. So no, I don't remember anything like that.
And if that video, if it's working and if it captures the area that this, what was your word, rendezvous? Is that what you just said?
I think so.
Okay. And the rendezvous, according to Mr. Copeland, let's say, it might be others, but at approximately 8 o'clock at night, January 10th, 2015, approximately.
Mm-hmm.
And you could correct me, if my times are off. If that surveillance at the McDonald's captured people actually meeting, then we would know who was actually there and if Mr. Copeland was being straightforward. Is that fair to say?
He just won't
Sustained.
stop. He won't. I love him.
Did Detective Thorpe ever tell you, besides his file, did he tell you that he went out and looked at and saw or tried to see the video from the 10th day of January 2015, approximately 8 o'clock p.m. from the McDonald's?
I love him.
I covered this with Detective Thorpe, but I'm impeaching him.
Overruled.
I don't recall
Steals
him
on- he's on a roll.
telling me that. It doesn't mean that he didn't, but I just don't recall it. It just seems like something that would leave a mental impression on me because, again, I would have just thought, well, where's the video? I don't have the video. I would have liked to know that. So I don't think he ever did.
In your experience since, I believe you said 2012, but it might have been 2009, with the DA's office in Fulton County, have you looked at and subpoenaed whether, or a grand jury, or excuse me, a court's search warrant, surveillance video from stores?
I have, yeah.
Have you found that after a certain period of time, some of the video is erased or deleted?
Yes, that's the practice. The videos are all digital. I don't want to say they're all digital. There may still be people using tapes, but every video I've ever seen has been digital, and they only have so much room on the computer system that's storing the video, and eventually will start overwriting itself.
Explain, first of all, this includes 2015?
Yes.
Okay. Tell the jurors what you mean. I know you're comfortable with it, but overriding itself, just explain that process from your experience, knowledge, and work with these.
Well, just like every computer surveillance system, cameras are hooked up to essentially a computer. The footage is recorded digitally and stored on a drive, some sort of media in the computer, but that drive can only store so much data, so many ones and zeros, I suppose. And so once the drive is full, the system is programmed to just it's not like a tape where it starts in the beginning of the tape and starts overwriting it, but it starts writing data to the parts of the drive that already have data on it. And over time, the data just starts to rewrite itself. And eventually, after a certain amount of time, all traces of the footage from a certain date will eventually be gone as they've been overwritten by data from other footage.
So just putting that on make it simple on a date, have you seen surveillance video that lasts 30 days?
I believe so. I don't want to throw out any names, but there's one place in particular that comes to mind, but it's not relevant here, and I also don't remember exactly, but I do believe that 30 days I have seen before.
Okay. What's a typical days that until it starts overriding?
I'm going to just ask and answer the speculation element relates to McDonald's video.
I'm impeaching Detective Thorpe.
I feel maybe 2 weeks. That's always what I kind of mark in my mind as if it's within 2 weeks of an event. I mean, you want to get the video as soon as possible, to be clear. But I really start losing hope after 2 weeks. But again, it depends on it could be a big retail outfit. Now going back to 2015, it may be a little different, and maybe they just have petabytes of storage for their video and it's stored off site. But your typical, like a gas station, particularly in 2015, where it was stored within, probably on a DVR, you're going to want to get that as soon as possible. You can start overwriting after 48 hours.
Okay. And when you say then it writes it over, so if it's, I'm just using 2 weeks, okay? Mm-hmm. January 1, 2015, 2 weeks would go to approximately January 14, 2015.
Right.
On January 15, 2015, does the entirety, in your experience and your dealing with this, does the entirety of everything in those 2 weeks go away, or is it on a rolling basis?
That's an answer on it.
Not of this witness.
And speculation as to this witness.
He's asking within his experience overruled.
Okay.
Well, okay, so are we talking about one location and one, if we're talking about surveillance footage, one location and one computer system, or we're talking about the entire world of surveillance footage?
McDonald's, 2015, January 10th, surveillance, just typical McDonald's, your experience, hypothetically 2 weeks. I want to know on the 15th day, so I'm just after the 2 weeks, what you're explaining to the jury, does day 1, January 1 override, or the entirety from January 1 to 2014? That's my question.
To lack of foundation at this point.
Sustained.
In your experience with a 2-week camera, does it override just one day at a time? As the next day comes in, the first day's gone.
Vague as to your experience to a camera.
We've already
2 week
discussed
period,
this, y'all.
Any camera. I mean,
Sustained.
There's already evidence
When you
about
say
this.
override, tell the jurors what you meant by that.
asked and answered.
Sustained.
I don't believe he just
Yeah, he
used the
did.
word.
He explained it in detail.
All right.
Okay.
you-
Paige is hangry.
Or any of your members of your team, I'm including the prosecution team. You understand what I'm asking? Mm-hmm. So prosecution team are all law enforcement, GBI crime lab, your office, whomever, okay? FBI. Did you ever find out from any source that McDonald's, how long, if at all, they had that surveillance video?
The record retention period for surveillance video, if I knew it, I don't remember it now. So no, I can't answer. I don't know what their retention period was back then, nor do I know what it is now.
Did you ever hear from a detective, you know who Detective Gaither, Detective Dennis, they worked together, gang unit, in 2015, January?
Yes, I know them.
Okay. Did they ever tell you, or put in writing, in any way, that they went to the McDonald's in June 11, 2015, and inquired about the surveillance?
Objection, hearsay.
I am
How is that
impeaching
fucking hearsay?
Detective Gaither's testimony.
And
Yeah.
who are you asking about at this point?
Detective
Gaither.
Gaither, January
Who's already testified.
11, 2015, going to McDonald's and inquiring about the video.
And that is hearsay, and it's not impeachment unless they specifically confronted
Sustained.
Detective
They
Gaither
did
did
specifically.
confront
He was,
Detective
yes.
Gaither.
with
Yes.
telling
Yes, he did.
Mr. Sprinkle as to whether they got video surveillance footage or not.
I wanna know if
It's
it's
not
in- I want to know if it's in the
Detective Gaither
records.
was not confronted with that.
Okay, sustained.
I want to know if it's in the records.
That wouldn't be, then that would, what,
Just
rephrase
re-ask
your
the
question.
There you go.
That question, the objection is sustained.
Do you have any information from any source that you looked at in your records, conversations that Detective Gaither and/or Detective Dennis went to the McDonald's on the day after interviewing Kenneth Copeland, June 11, 2015, and inquired about their surveillance equipment?
No, I have no notes that indicate that, and I have no memory of any conversations that I had with them where they told me that they did.
Did you ever obtain personally or have a member of your team, or it was done before you got involved, Sky House, you know, the condominium that Mr. Williams was living at in January 2015?
Yes.
Okay. Any surveillance from there?
No.
How about the Green Store? Any surveillance at the Green Store that Kenneth Copeland states that he was there, personally there, at and around the time of the killing of Donovan Thomas? Any surveillance from there?
No, no surveillance.
Not a damn thing.
Did you or members of the prosecution team, I'm including all law enforcement, ever interview the people or persons that Kenneth Copeland said in June 10, 2015 that he was with at the Green Store at the time around Mr.
Did you interview
Donovan
the-
Thomas's
okay.
murder?
Well, there's a little Rick that he mentioned, if I remember correctly. No, I didn't, nor do I know if law enforcement did. No.
How many cell phones did Kenneth Copeland have access to that he can use on January 10, 2015?
All I know of is the one that I testified to.
And you do know that Kenneth Copeland testified in this court, and if you don't know, just say I don't know, that he had multiple cell phones.
I'm going to object at the rule of sequestration.
I mean, I would hope he doesn't know.
Okay.
Since he's a
Do you
witness in this case.
do you have
Then why
knowledge
was Woody in the courtroom?
that Mr. Copeland did not have 2 or more cell phones on January 10, 2015 through your investigation?
Asked and answered. He just answered that question, that he only knew
Knew
of
one.
the one cell phone.
Sustained.
He's right on that.
Let me ask you this.
I hate it when the government's right.
Phone records that you talked about at length with the Honorable Mr. Body, through your analysis, and what you were given and subpoenaed more phone records, fair to say?
Yes.
All right. Those phone records give a general whereabout of where a handset is located, if it's working properly, if the records are accurate. I'm assuming all that, where a phone set would be in relation to its cell phone tower. Is that fair to say?
Right, just the area, the approximate area that the phone would be located based on the tower that he utilized.
And in your experience, if you know, and if you don't know, just say, I don't want to testify to this, that area could be how many miles, how many feet, do you know? And we're talking about Atlanta, January 2015. And please, I'm not trying to put you out on a limb. I know you're under oath.
Well, I don't know that anybody could testify as to the exact square footage of the area.
That's why I don't like
but
the
it's-
cell phone
it
stuff.
Suffices to say, it's not like GPS. It's a large area, probably, like over a mile.
Could be multiple miles.
Could be.
And jurors may not understand what you meant by it's not like GPS. Just explain that.
Well, like a point on a map. Like, in other words, when you get phone records, you don't have a log of the exact locations of a cellular device, like a pinpoint that you could put on the map that the phone was right here. Like, for example, I have a phone on me. If you were to get my phone records, it wouldn't show my phone sitting right here in the witness stand. It would show that it was using the tower next to the courthouse, or near the courthouse, down the street, wherever, but it's not exactly.
Now, are you aware from your review of your records as you've been testifying and the recordings that Kenneth Copeland met with Detective Thorpe, Homicide Detective Thorpe, on the early morning hours of January 11, 2015?
Yes, I do recall Kenneth Copeland traveled to the precinct or arrived at the precinct and spoke with Detective Thorpe, yes.
And did you remember seeing that video? Did you ever watch that, and do you have a memory of that video encounter?
I believe so. It's been a while. I don't recall that video being all that important to me. I remember summarizing it, so I must have watched it, yes.
Do you remember Kenneth Copeland had a cell phone on the desk when he was speaking with Detective Thorpe?
That I don't remember. I'd have to take a look at the video.
Well, the jurors have seen it, so we're good. Do you remember Kenneth Copeland explaining that he knew that cell phones can give an area? On January 11,
Even Copeland
2015,
knew.
explaining to Detective Thorpe that he was aware that check the cell phone records, check the cell phone, it'll show it's in this area. Do you remember him saying that?
I remember somebody saying that during the, I can't say that I remember if it was him, though.
All right. Let me ask you this. The cell phone records that we have here, unfortunately, don't give the actual communication. They might say handset of Kenneth Copeland, speaks with a handset of Natasha Williams, but we don't know what's being said according to these records. Fair to say?
That's correct.
Now, with regards to Nyesha Williams, N-Y-I-S-H-A Williams, typical
Yes.
spelling. Do you know that person?
I do not.
Okay. Do you remember seeking and obtaining and subpoenaing cellular telephone records for Nyesha Williams?
I do remember doing that.
And do you remember why you did that?
They appeared in the, there was a number that appeared in Kenneth Copeland's cell phone records that evening. And when I say that evening, I mean the evening of January 10th, 2015. And specifically, so I'm clear here, it was 404-621-0102. I'm looking at Kenneth Copeland's records to refresh my recollection. And because of the times that there were phone calls sent or transmitted and received by that number, I thought it was relevant. So I subpoenaed both the call logs and the subscriber information. The subscriber information was the name of Nyesha Williams.
And sometimes people can, and there's nothing wrong with it, people can use a cell phone that's not registered in their name for various reasons. Is that fair to say?
It's very fair to say. It happens all the time.
So a Nyesha Williams, I'm just using it since we're using it, she could be on the Verizon call as a registered person, but she can freely give me her cell phone and I could use it all the time.
That's right.
But it would come back if somebody like you subpoenaed it, it would look like it's Nyesha Williams' call. In the name doesn't mean she's using the phone.
That's right.
And you, through your research, took Kenneth Copeland's statements on June 10, 2015, and when he said he called Mr. Garlington, you wanted to know what number Mr. Garlington was using then. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
And through your deduction, whether it's right or wrong, you said the Nyesha Williams registered phone might have been in the custody, control, and use of Demikian Garlington.
It's possible, but I do not know.
I'm not saying anyone knows, but that was your deduction.
That's right.
That's why you then targeted the jail records for Nyesha Williams' registered phone, because you thought it may relate to Mr. Garlington.
Do you mean the cell phone records for her phone?
Did I say that?
I think you said jail records, but yes, I obtained the cell phone records for
I
her
said
phone.
jail record. I meant cell phone record.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you obtained those
He didn't
records,
say
you
jail.
specifically did not request, you testified to this before, you specifically did not request historical cell site location data for Nyesha Williams' phone.
That's correct.
And what that means to the jurors who may know what it is but don't, that means you don't get the longitude and latitude of which tower that phone is employing at the time of the handset speaking with the cell tower, then it goes to the switching station.
That's essentially right. You just get a log of incoming and outgoing calls, the times, the numbers, but the columns that tell you the location of the tower that was utilized, you don't get that. You need a search warrant for that.
Did you ever exclude the Nyesha Williams cell phone as the phone Mr. Garlington was using on the night of January 10, 2015?
Did I ever conclude that it was not his phone? Or the phone that he was using, rather?
I meant that the phone is using.
No, I never definitively concluded that he was or was not using that phone.
And if, as you believed or hunched or were doing your work, Mr. Garlington was using that phone registered to Naisha Williams, then you can track at least what calls were being made at what times. Is that fair to say?
All right, go ahead. You can answer.
You mean I can at least see the phone,
Yes.
like the list of calls that were sent and received, text messages sent and received by the phone, the
True.
handset?
Yes.
Yes, I believe I obtained those records.
All right.
The phone.
Now, Mr. Copeland stated on June 10th, 2015, from the McDonald's, that he was in his car at some point, along with Mr. Garlington and along with Mr. McMullen, Demise McMullen's, also known as Nard.
If I remember correctly, I think you said it was his brother Rontrez Brock's Dodge Charger, but yes, all three of them were at the McDonald's in that car, a car that he had possession of. Kenneth Copeland did, that is.
Okay. And Kenneth Copeland said that I'm not saying it's true, but Kenneth Copeland said on June 10, 2015, he left the McDonald's. I'm using 8 o'clock. If I'm wrong, just correct my time, but approximately 8 o'clock. He was driving the vehicle, the Charger, along with Mr. Garlington in the front passenger seat and Mr. McMullen or Nard in the rear driver's seat.
That sounds right, yeah. I don't recall what the exact seating arrangement was, but the occupants of the vehicle, that sounds correct.
And then he
Couldn't
has
recall it,
that
it's so
car,
long ago.
the Charger, going up, following another vehicle, a Nitro, white Nitro, to around Jeffrey Williams' Sky House condo.
That's what he said.
And did you look, when analyzing the calls from Naisha Williams, records rather, from Naisha Williams, and realize that during that relevant period of time on the supposed drive from the McDonald's to the Sky House, the Naisha Williams call that's potentially with Mr. Garlington and the Mr. McMullen calls, the number associated with Mr. McMullen, were in communication with each other?
Are you asking me, did Mr. McMullen and or the phone subscribed to by somebody named Naisha Williams communicate?
At the relevant time of when supposedly Mr. Copeland is driving them together in the same car to the Sky House? Yes, that's my question.
I don't recall. I do recall Mr. McMullen was a very frequently contacted number within the Naisha Williams phone records. But I don't have, well, I do have Mr. McMullen's.
If you could check it, I'd appreciate it.
Morning,
Just tell
another
the jurors
CG. How you
whether at the
doing?
time they're supposedly in the same exact car, these two phone numbers of the Naisha Williams and the Mr. McMullen are communicating together according to the phone record.
Okay, so we have, what?
Can you use what exhibit you're using?
Is that an exhibit, or
It's already in evidence.
does he know what exhibit number it is?
Do you have an exhibit number? Are you looking at an actual?
I think he may. Well, y'all
I
can
mean,
check.
honestly, I don't think you could stage a trial this ridiculous. Like, you'd have to be
Is
so
there an
creative.
exhibit number on what you're looking at?
No, I just brought the phone, I printed them out and brought them to court. So
This is, what is it that you're looking at?
the
How do
phone
you have
records
fucking
for 470-217-6080, Demise McMullen.
What?
Okay, does anybody know what exhibit number that is?
Yes, 464Y.
Thank you.
Still requested during my direct.
Okay.
Okay, so what I see here is at 7:59 p.m. on January 10th, 2015.
Just do me a favor, because you're looking down. Can you just go a little slower?
Yes. What I see.
Actually, let me stop. How much longer is your examination of this witness going to be?
That's our Paige's hungry.
45 minutes.
All right, let's stop and break
Jesus.
for lunch.
Two
Yes,
an hour and a half, because I don't want to,
All right, I'll see y'all back at,
Y'all.
let's be back at 1:45.
Okay, they're gonna be back at 1:45,
Thank you, Your Honor.
and we are going 12:45 my time, which is when I gotta go anyhow. So that's perfect. I'm Lauren Cadillac, aka OG Cadillac, aka Mother of the Decade, aka looks a decade younger than she really is, aka your favorite internet lawyer. This is us today in Paige's courtroom, right here. We got Atkins, Abate, and Sprinkle. Man, those guys look exactly alike. I've never seen three men that look so similar in my entire life. Literally, when Abate showed up, I literally was like, why is Sprinkle being the lawyer now? And how come the defense hasn't said anything about it? I saw no difference. Was Monday boring? I feel like it was. It was, yeah. There was like a lot of... Here's an example. This is why I don't like the cell phone data, right? Like, here's your tower, and this is this huge radius. This whole thing, like these, I was so bad at geometry. This huge angle, like that's a rather large radius. I don't know, it just doesn't seem super accurate. And I feel like we used to put people in jail, like we could convict them of committing crimes without this shit. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, I don't like it. So Monday morning, Abate shows up. And he's there with Nikki Hilton and Atkins and this guy who did all the like location of the cell phone crap. It was a pretty boring day, but it actually like moved, right? So they had this boring cell phone guy. Then we got Adams cross-examining this guy. I don't remember who this guy was, so let's watch this.
Yes, that's all I can remember from reading.
Okay. So what you know and what you then communicate to other officers or investigators is that there's a shooting that occurred at Trestle Tree, right? That's one. The shooting appeared to have been someone shooting at this burgundy Infiniti, right?
Correct.
The person doing the shooting would have been a black male coming out of a white or silver Dodge Charger.
That's correct.
And then leaving the scene.
That's correct. They were
But
left.
leaving 45, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Leaving the scene.
Right.
And leaving some 45 caliber shell casings there at the location.
That would be correct.
All right. It is fair to say that that was the, well, you...
Okay, so it was boring.
I remind y'all that for anybody who might want to vote in the upcoming election, because we are not going to be taking election day off. Early voting starts tomorrow and runs all the way through November 1st.
Don't forget to vote, y'all.
And y'all should have the information about where you can vote. It doesn't have to be your precinct. It's basically anywhere that's open in Fulton County, and the hours, including weekend hours and before and after work times. So anybody that wants to get that done, go ahead and get that done. See y'all tomorrow at 9.
Okay, this is the end of Monday. This is like the best part of the whole day. Actually, Monday went like how a trial should, you know, it was nice and boring.
I want to commend the state for the efficiency with which the evidence was presented today. Keep it up. All right.
Did you hear that? So on Monday, after the jurors leave,
you're welcome. Any matters?
Paige thanks the state for, you know, basically just doing their job, like, you know, presenting a case efficiently and effectively as they're trained to do, right? So I thought that was hilarious. All right. No, another CG, she is going to make them work on election day. Here in Texas, the courthouse is the best place to vote, man. They got, as soon as it's election season, they got all the things there. When you're at court, you just walk in there and da-da-da. So I'm surprised the jurors can't just like go out into the lobby and vote. Like that's how it is here, literally. So I don't know. They have to work on that day, so. Okay, Tuesday morning we start off. Our hero, Max Shard, is wearing a mask. I guess maybe he's feeling a little under the weather. And
The state's telling me this, wrote a letter about the incident, kind of an apology.
Okay, we got a Louis Vuitton sweater. I don't like this because I don't like branded stuff. Like, I feel like I'm like Michael Jordan, you know, Nike paid him to wear their brand. I'm gonna get paid to wear your brand too, okay? So you will never see me in a Louis Vuitton sweater that has the LV all over it. And no, you'll not see me carry a purse. No, not like that. Well, Jiggy, everyone hates Miss Love. And really, the only way to have compliments for the States is that she has to be gone. She cannot be there. Okay, so Shard is about to go on and on. Apparently, here's the story. Remember how Shannon was in that car, I guess it was an SUV, and his baby mama's friend was driving and a rival gang shot at them, and she got shot in the face, and he ended up in the hospital. Y'all remember that, I know you do. Well, apparently, when he was talking with the detective who was researching or investigating that shooting where Shannon was the victim, Shannon expressed great remorse for the loss of that woman's life. And apparently, he wrote this letter to her family, like, oh, you know, I'm assuming, like, I'm so sorry that your daughter died because I was in the car, right? I don't know. But that's my assumption. And then I guess there was another letter written which redacted. So I don't necessarily understand the rest of it. But what I do understand is the state is now wanting to use those letters, but they hadn't given copies to the defense yet. If that is not the most Fulton County bullshit you have ever heard, we are on day 144. When will they learn?
To Tiara Jones's family, as my understanding.
Tiara Jones was the woman who died.
To the court, I don't remember seeing that letter in discovery. I don't believe I've ever read that letter, but you know, I'm not going to swear to it. But then apparently there was another letter where my client, that was sent to me last night at about 9:30 or 10, which I never had seen before, to my recollection, where my client basically recanted, I guess, what he said. I'm saying I guess what he said in the original letter because I haven't seen the original letter, so I don't know what he actually said. And my belief is that the state, and they've communicated with me about this, but they're seeking to admit these letters through Investigator Griffin. And I, who was the homicide investigator on that case, I'm just in the blind right now about these letters. One I've never seen, and it may or may not exist. The other one I've seen, I have no reason to believe that there's no, I don't know where it came from. There's
Who sent it to you?
Miss Hilton.
Okay.
And it's a letter, and it's signed, the name signed is Shannon Jackson. I don't know that my client wrote that letter. I don't know where it came from.
I've never
I don't
seen
know
it.
anything about it. And
Your Honor?
Yes.
Can I
yes.
I don't know who this lady is. I'm just not a good. She looks like she's pretty for her age. I noticed that all the dudes, or not the dudes, all the broads that get sent to defend Yak are really decent looking ladies.
And good morning, everyone. Can I alert this honorable court? I have not, I'm sure it's an oversight, but Ms. Hilton, I don't believe, sent me that letter. Further conspiracy under 24-8-801-D2.
So the defense sent it to Shard because it affected his client directly, but, you know, failed to send it to the rest of the defendants. Oh my God. What's the fucking craziest is that it is now, what is today, October 18th? I was there on August 13th. So what is that, 2 months and 5 days ago? So 65 days ago. And I was there 65 days ago, and the same issue was coming up. There was still evidence that had not been handed over to the defense yet. And that is what I specifically talked to about with Mr. Adams and Mr. Steele. I was like, this shit is unbelievable. Here we are 65 days later. Same shit, different day. It's crazy.
So I'll also be voicing objection. So later when you're doing it at lunch, I want you to budget for that too.
Okay, all right, well, we'll sort it all out during the lunch break. Who's your first witness for this morning going to
I
be?
do not like that brown suit. I absolutely hate the shit. She has gloves on. Come on. It is so dramatic. Do not be ridiculous. If you are that cold in 67.8, you need to go see a doctor.
Well, maybe we'll be sorting it out now after all. Do you have a second witness that you could put on instead of the first witness?
Okay,
Yes,
St.
Your Honor. We
Nikki
do have some other
Hilton
witnesses
is
in the hallway, so
here.
we're
I
just
love her
confirming not confirming,
jacket.
but just gathering who's on the hallway to make sure, to figure out who we're going to call first since the first witness isn't here.
Okay, and you'll know that within a matter of a minute or two?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, well, in the meantime.
Okay, well, guess
Time
who
she
came
went to
back
that
in her
location, did
damn
you know which
Christmas
one that was?
plaid, y'all?
Question.
Yes.
Firstly, it is October. We do not wear Christmas plaid in October. You cannot wear this color plaid until November. How will argue this color plaid is inappropriate before Veterans Day? Okay, that's November 11th. Ridiculous. Why does this woman insist on looking like a tablecloth? Like, what is... Okay. So, we're not even going to go through this because she makes me sick. Her voice makes me physically ill, and everything she does takes 18,000 times longer than it should. So she questions some cop. All right, now we got someone's ex-girlfriend on the stand. She's pretty cute. I forgot who it is.
And if you'll just have a seat, and then make sure you pull the chair up a little bit, because you're very light-spoken, so everybody can hear you, okay?
Well, that's what I'm saying, Bond baby. If she's anemic, she needs to go to the fucking doctor. Get some iron pills.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you tell the jurors, where are you from?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. Are you born and raised?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you do for work?
I'm a clerk.
Okay. And do you live, does the majority of your family also live in the greater Atlanta area?
Yes.
Okay. Now, can you tell the jurors how you know, or if you know, a gentleman named Quindarius Zachary?
I dated Quindarius Zachary.
Oh, okay. So she's
can you tell the jurors?
She's cute.
Okay. Can you tell me where you did, through your relationship, did you, can you tell them where Mr. Zachary was from? What part of Atlanta? Can you tell the jurors, did you have an opportunity to go to his house where he lived with his mom off of Cleveland Avenue on multiple occasions?
Yes.
Okay. And just... Now, during your time that you spent in a relationship with Mr. Zachary, can you tell the jurors, did you have an opportunity to kind of meet some of his friends or associates?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to meet a gentleman named Antonio Sledge?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I gotta
And
tell
what
you
about
something right now.
someone named Shannon Stillwell?
Yes.
If in 2024 I get subpoenaed behind some dude I dated way back in 2015, my ass is gonna be pissed. I'm moving to Quash that hoe. Of course, she doesn't necessarily have the ability to move to Quash in the way that I do, but get the f out of here. 9 years ago? I don't remember what I did with this man. I barely even remember his name. 9 years ago. It just makes... The statute of limitations issue really, really, really bugs the fucking shit out of me. And the other thing that really upsets me is that almost all of the crimes we're hearing about, somebody has already gone to jail for. So, why? Why are we here again? What happened to Double Jeopardy? What happened to Double Jeopardy? So ridiculous. I have not heard that Miss Love has been demoted. I haven't heard that. That's a rumor on the internet, but there's no confirmation anywhere. All right, so on this day, we got to see Woody again. This was really fun. Here we go. Here he comes.
Okay, so we're...
My fucking tree skirt. It's just like this. There he is, there he is, there he is, wheeling in an old ass lady. There he goes. Okay, so this old lady.
IWEATATR.
Good morning. Did you have a son by the name of Kenneth Hurst, aka Kenny Boo?
Yes.
Okay. And did Mr. Hurst have any children prior to his passing?
Yes.
How many children did he have?
6.
And do you have any other children?
No, those are my only son.
Do you have any daughters?
Adopted daughters, yes.
All right. Do you have any more grandchildren?
No.
Okay.
I have 2 great-grands.
Okay. And was there a time that you resided at 193 Hendricks Avenue?
Yes.
And just a brief moment, Your Honor. Do you know Waikithia Brock?
Yes.
And who is that to you?
My grandkid's mother.
Okay. And how many grandchildren did she give you?
4.
And what is her relationship to Kenneth Hurst?
With his girlfriend.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you a few questions, Ms. Merriweather. Do you recall your home being shot up on January 12, 2015?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you recall law enforcement coming out that day in reference to such activity?
Like I said, I can't remember. Only time I remember was 2015.
Yes, that's the date I just referenced, January 12th, 2015.
That might have been it.
Okay. It's fair to say it's been a while since that
Yeah.
date. Yes, ma'am. And on that day of January 12th, 2015, what were you doing when your house was shot up?
In the bed.
Okay. Were you asleep?
Yes.
And was it early morning?
Yes.
Okay. And at the time that you heard the shots ring out and hit your home, what, if anything, did you do at that time?
Got on the floor.
Okay. And was anyone else home with you at that time?
Yes.
Who was with you at home?
Charlize Gaines, Lucille Moore, and Charlize kids.
Who is Charlize Gaines?
My adopted daughter.
Okay. And who's Lucille Moore?
My mother.
Okay. And do you recall about how long the shots rang out?
How long did it?
Yes, ma'am.
Say that again.
Yes, ma'am. Did the shooting last a long time or a short time?
It lasted a long time to shoot up my house.
Yes, ma'am. Which of your grandchildren were there at that time?
He was a baby Cam.
Okay. And
Those are the judges
was there a
doing
time during
something
that,
else.
before or after that shooting, that Charlize came to the home, if you recall?
How about
Charlize came
me
to the
doing
home, I think it
something
was before
else?
the
This is boring as
shooting.
shit.
Oh.
BBL
But
Brown
before-
is a terrible lawyer, y'all.
After the shots were fired,
Yeah, they came.
and
I don't know what time it was. But like
and when you say your house,
Please
what
came.
property outside of the structure of the home was affected?
my windows,
Okay.
my furniture, my dining room, my TVs, my washroom, bedroom.
Right. Do you recall if anyone else had returned to the home with you on February 10, 2015? Do you recall if on February 10th, 2015, if there was anyone, excuse me, I'll rephrase. Do you recall on February 10th, 2015, if law enforcement came to your house that second time?
God, he's so boring.
Crime scene,
Okay, well, at least they're going through people.
2017.
Y'all, this is boring
I
as hell.
retired. Thank you.
This is really how trials should be. Trials are supposed to be boring. It should not be exciting. We should not be having all the excitement and drama that we've had. It should be real dry.
Not this detective, because this detective was unaware of the recanting. However,
I don't know what you mean by this detective.
the
Okay,
detective
they're
investigator
back
Griffin,
to
who
the
was the
letter
detective on the
thing.
homicide, he was unaware of it. However,
And the judge is like, you can't have the letters. You didn't disclose them. Oh, what? Is the judge flirting with Matthews? Okay, you'll also notice in the morning, Love was there, but by the afternoon they got rid of her. More people. Oh, there's a bait is
Are you ready
leaving.
for the jury? Okay.
Got a lot of people, blah, blah, blah.
were you aware of any conflict that your son Rayshawn was having, if any?
No.
I'm going to direct you specifically to January 22nd, 2015, okay?
Yes.
The police have a
Don't
responsibility.
recall, but I don't think the defense cross-examined
on the
a
evening
single
of January
witness
22nd,
that day.
2015.
I don't remember fully, but I don't think they crossed anyone that day. Okay, so then we got to Wednesday, and our dear Shard was wearing a mask, and he didn't have it on today. So whatever was keeping him down, whatever he's feeling not that great, he apparently has kicked it. So Wednesday was a weird short day. First, we got to go to this fucking tablecloth. I swear to God, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. If I end up being in a trial that is on television like this, okay, like the way OJ was on TV and people are really watching it, I'm going to hire a stylist. Okay, I am. I'm gonna hire a stylist. We're probably not gonna buy a whole bunch of new stuff, but you're gonna help me figure out how to look good. Not like a fucking tablecloth. All right. So everyone's in sweaters and everyone's so cold. Deal with it, guys. Menopause is hard. All right. So. Oh, hold on.
Thank you.
I love the vest. Yak just has the best style to me. I just love how he dresses. I don't know. It's a delight. Every time I see him. Every time I just like his style.
You can call your next to the stand.
State call investigator Griffin to stand.
Okay, so now this investigator comes
No,
up.
so only lead that I had is we had 2 surviving victims, and they were taken to Grady Hospital. So what I did was after I left this crime scene, I went to the hospital to hopefully try.
Regards to this.
BT Dub, if you're new to the channel, do not come here for someone who is positively biased towards the government. It doesn't exist. I have a negative bias towards the government, and I actually personally believe we should all have a negative bias to the government. I believe it is our duty as Americans to negatively have a bias and question our government and wonder what they're doing at all times, okay? So we're skipping through the government's presentation. It's boring as shit, and we're going to get right to Max Shard's cross-examination because it's really good.
Incident, correct?
That's correct. I did.
All right. Client.
We'll start here.
So,
It's very good.
Investigator Griffin, you spoke to my client 3 times in regards to this incident, correct?
that's correct. I did.
All right. And you viewed him as a victim,
Yes, absolutely he is.
and you still view him as a victim.
I still do.
Love that. And I love that this cop, this detective, he's rare, okay? That he is able to see this man was a victim. People were shooting at him. Whether or not he's also like in a rival gang, whether or not he shot at other people, it doesn't matter. He was a victim in this situation. He was shot at. He had a collapsed lung, some other crap. Someone died. You know, this is a respectful detective, and I like it.
Okay. And on direct, you said you try to be relatable. In these interviews that are all recorded, you treated Mr. Stillwell with respect, did you not?
I believe so.
Okay, and I appreciate that. Mr. Stillwell treated you with respect, correct?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Great testimony.
You tried to be kind to Mr. Stillwell.
Yes, sir.
I want to talk to you about the facts as you understand them based on your investigation and what Shannon told you in that interview.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about Miss Duncan, Miss Jones, and Shannon Stillwell, who you referred to as Shannon Jackson.
Yes, I apologize if that's not.
No, that's fine. That's fine. In a gray SUV, correct?
I think the color is actually green. But
Green. Okay.
This is like
It can
the
be taken
first
as gray.
detective I've ever liked in my whole life.
Make model of that car.
It was a Mercury Mountaineer. I don't know the year though.
Okay, that's fine. So they're in a Mercury Mountaineer during this incident.
That's correct.
As you understand it, the lead up to this incident is Mr. Stillwell and Miss Duncan had at that time a 10-month-old daughter together, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And as you understand from your investigation, the plan was for Miss Duncan to come pick up Shannon, and Shannon was to go watch the baby at his grandmother's house, correct?
That is correct.
And his grandmother lives, I don't want to give addresses, but south of Grant Park,
I don't remember, but if you say that's what it is, I don't remember. I'm sorry.
a couple miles from JJ's Fish.
Yes.
Okay. And so Miss Duncan had asked Miss Jones to drive her to pick up Shannon on Lakewood Avenue.
That is correct.
Okay. And Miss Duncan and Miss
Hey,
Jones
Red
are friends
Bunny.
or knew each other prior to this incident.
That's also correct.
Okay, and your understanding is Mr. Stillwell did not know Miss Jones prior to this incident.
As he explained it to me, he did not know Mrs. Tiara Jones.
Okay.
Y'all, this is so sad. Shannon's baby mama asked this girl who's her friend, can you help go pick up my baby daddy with me so we can drop him off at his grandma's house and he can watch our baby? And the friend says, sure. And then the friend drives them and the friend dies. And it was no wonder Shannon felt terrible about it. Anyone with like a soul would feel awful about this. So terrible. She's trying to be nice, trying to just help out. Crazy.
So Miss Duncan and Miss Jones is driving her green SUV.
That's correct.
And they pick up Shannon at Lakewood and they decide to stop at JJ's Fish. Was it JJ's Chicken and Fish?
I think it's JJ's Chicken and Fish.
JJ's Chicken and Fish at the corner of University and Pryor, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And at JJ's Chicken and Fish, you learned from Shannon that he saw fire from that green SUV, is there?
No evidence at all.
Okay, so no gunshots were fired out of the green
And you,
SUV.
in
They
fact,
were
not only
victims.
collected
Just more of how they
video
were
from
victims.
the JJ's parking lot, but you also drove the route and looked for, were they city-owned video cameras on the street?
They were. I found out they were owned by the city. That is correct.
Okay, how many different cameras did you find on this?
I'm not certain of the exact number. I might have mentioned it in my police report, but I did take note at that intersection. There was what I thought were security cameras or traffic cameras at that intersection of Milton and Hank Aaron.
Okay, and there's also a traffic light at Milton and Hank Aaron, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And so, why did you spend your time looking for these surveillance.
So this detective actually goes out and finds security footage. That's like night and day between what we heard this morning and what Steele will not let anyone forget is that there's no footage from the McDonald's that anyone had reviewed. And, you know, I kind of feel like the gang unit is where they toss the shitty cops and they're like, oh, just go be over there. We'll promote you to detectives because they couldn't necessarily fire them or something. All right, I'm going to skip through it. It's just excruciating. As is this outfit. You guys. I was so excited because she was gone all morning and I was like, oh, yay. And then like 3 hours deep, she comes in wearing this. I'm like, why? Like, how did you put this together as your outfit for the day? Does she own a mirror, y'all? Like, come on. Oh, and look, it really isn't that cold. She's just being dramatic. She doesn't have a glove on now. Okay. Then they go to lunch, maybe. She comes back, and it's so excruciating to watch Miss Love. How it takes her a day and a half to do what it would take someone else 45 seconds. You know, it is like, oh, it is so painful.
Okay, so a person that actually looks at evidence and makes a determination, for example, of whether a particular cartridge was fired from a particular gun is a firearms examiner. That's not you. Correct. Okay. In your capacity, and you work for APD, yes, right? You work with their lab, yes. All right. What you do, if I heard you correctly, is that you receive items of evidence tied to particular cases, right? Yes. Those items of evidence come into you from whoever the case agent is, the case detective or police officer, right? Yes. So, for example, a detective, I'm just using his name, Thorpe, might submit cartridge cases to the lab for them to be recorded, analyzed, for you to examine their characteristics. Is that fair? Yes. All right. You were asked on direct examination, okay, who's the suspect? What's the suspect name or the victim name or something like that? You remember those questions? Yes. That's not something that you do. You don't make a determination as to who a potential suspect is or who a potential victim is in a particular case that comes to you, right?
No, we only record what comes in the packaging or a submission form. If it has that, we just record what's there.
Okay. So submission forms, as you referenced, when you get those items of evidence, and hypothetically I'm talking about, let's say, some shell casings, right? You have a submission form that has those items and it has some information usually filled.
Okay, then the judge dismisses them.
I have the information about why. I don't know if it's okay to share with everybody the
Somebody's
information
sick.
about why. I'm looking at you. Okay.
Who cares?
We have finished for the.
I mean, Adams made that guy look like an idiot. Okay, so then yesterday, hey Goddess, welcome. Oh my God, yesterday was so beautiful, you guys. Yesterday was so freaking fun. K-Way says the APD gang unit is for the ish cops. That's what I was thinking. Like, that's where you send the cops who don't like answering 911 calls. As Gaither testified too. I guess she could say that now because she doesn't actually work for the government anymore. But I mean, she straight up said that she didn't like taking 911 calls, which is like the last time I checked, like her actual job, right? Like when you're a street cop. So what did they do? They promoted her to gang unit. So yeah, gang unit is where you toss all of the bad apples. All right.
Right.
So,
Mind redacting that out?
Thursday.
No, and I actually was going to try to speak to Mr. Sharp before we started court. Wasn't able to yet to let him know that there won't be any issue with that.
Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate that.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Steele, do you have that?
I'm getting pulled up by, I believe, Ms. Westmoreland, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Westmoreland.
Almost there, Your Honor.
No problem.
Sure. I like Nikki's suit today.
Your Honor, while we wait, I'm going to briefly consult with Mr. Sharp on the contact.
Okay. I'm going to send it to you right now. Oh, yes.
I don't usually like pantsuits on women, generally speaking, but Nikki looked good. I do not like the jean jacket in court. I don't think it's respectful enough, but whatever, who am I? The big hoodie, you guys, this is just being dramatic. These guys need to see a doctor.
Get it to you as soon as possible.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. So it took him a minute to get organized.
be notified by the patrol officer of the shooting. Usually they happen at night, and usually once they would give the name or they would provide us information indicating that it was a family member of.
Objection, confrontation clause.
Here's Detective Dipshit. All right, I'm not 100% sure why Detective Dipshit was called back to the stand. I really don't understand it. Okay. And I have such a hard time. I was like in the middle of working, and I can't stand looking at him in those eyes. He's just awful.
Rephrase. Sure. Without saying what any of the officers told you, just how did it factor into your investigation?
We basically gathered information as they came in, and pretty much every night we had a different shooting, and we were tasked with investigating it.
He's basically an idiot.
Outside of Kenneth Copeland, did you learn of other homes of individuals that you all associated with YSL members, their family's home being shot or targeted?
Yes.
What was one of those addresses?
Ruby Harper,
Okay. And whose home did you identify that home belonging to?
a family member related to Mr. Williams' picture.
What's been marked as Exhibit 540 Yankee? Do you recognize 540 Yankee?
Yes.
And how do you recognize 540 Yankee?
It's Mr. Williams' driver license picture.
And is that, I'm sorry,
From 2015.
you pulled regarding Mr.
I'm
Williams?
trying to get to that part, Goddess.
We would go from there. We would also reach out to our crime lab to see what shell casings was recovered. They would do what's had. And from that, it was almost like a play-by-play of what was going on, or those associated with Mr. Thomas. They basically were sending threats and telling what they.
Yep. Overruled.
Yes, he does look like Beetlejuice Red Bunny.
All right. Is 546Y one of those such posts that came from that Death to Snake N-words page?
Yes.
And is that a fair and accurate depiction of one of the posts that you saw in the early days after Mr. Thomas was killed?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time the state would like to attend to 546Y is happening.
Object to any hearsay in it. It's being used for the truth of the matter.
Your Honor, we're not offering any of the words in there for the truth of the matter, sir, but just to illustrate that that was the post that was given, or that was posted on social media.
I'll object to any of the words on the page except for the post. But death to snakes, if that's what the prosecutor's getting at. But any statement is being used for the truth of the matter.
Okay. So somehow the state proves him up as an expert. I wish I could get, I wish I remembered where it was. They prove him up as an expert. It's right before this break, I think. And the way he is proved up as an expert, like his examples is that, oh, I know. Hold on, here we go.
Well, I'm not waiving my objections because I've objected to it, but that's what I believed was going to be testified to. But just
Understood.
that-
I'm asking, it seemed at the bench that some people were maybe saying, we don't believe the dog.
Here we go.
To interpret lyrics as part of.
Okay, so it's got to be right before here because he does his Daubert. All right, let's start here. Okay. Hey Dee, hey Enye, hey everyone, welcome. All right, we're trying to find where this man is proved up as an expert. What struck me is that his like qualifications, besides the fact that he read magazines, which is fucking crazy, was that he watched YouTube. He was like, I watched YouTube. And I'm thinking in my mind, like, that means every single one of my followers is an expert on one. By the government and Fulton County standard, if y'all watch YouTube, you watch my YouTube, you're an expert. Boom, you're a law expert. Cool. I told my man, I went home, he's a big hip hop fan. I said, guess what? If you ever want a second job, you can go to Fulton County and just be a lyric expert because you listen to hip hop and you watch YouTube.
Sorry, there's a rough of the court's
that fucking
ruling
stupid?
at the very least on the Daubert hearing, but I don't know that we have a rough of the actual hearing.
We have our notes, we're checking right now.
Okay, here we go.
Everybody knew, right, that the state was at least going to offer Investigator Dennis to testify about the lyrics, right?
No. Okay, so there's the first issue. Now all of a sudden, the state wants Dennis to be an expert on what the lyrics mean. All right, now, this is what I did with Boleyn yesterday. I started reading lyrics from like Led Zeppelin songs and from Rolling Stone songs, and I'm like, you know who actually knows what that means? Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, you know, like the people who wrote it. Nobody knows what the lyrics means but the lyric writer. But anyhow, you now have Dennis, and the government is saying, oh, well, he's an expert on lyrics. We're going to prove him up as that. And so the defense is like, are you fucking kidding me? You never told us that? It gets better.
But what I was not aware of.
This just seems like the kind of thing that if y'all wanted the court to be having looked at this, you could have given me a heads up on.
I was unaware that there would be testimony as to, oh, this is decoded messages. That was never
Well, all
discussed.
right, no, but I ruled on that, and I sustained the objection on that, and Ms. Hilton understands that. So on the broader topic of is he even qualified to testify about lyrics as a part of gang investigations, which I understand y'all now asserting that was never covered.
I'm not asserting that. What I understood was Detective Dennis, over objection, would testify, in this song, this is said. This lyric is said. That's what I believe the lyric is. That's the lyric in the song.
Right.
That's it. Now we're getting into, oh, we're sending messages.
No, we're not going to.
I understand. That's what I was objecting
She's not, right. And so is there any other objection to him being able to testify about using lyrics in his investigations, in his opinion, which is only his opinion, as to what significance that has to his investigations?
Well, I'm not waiving my objections because I've objected to it, but that's what I believed was going to be testified to. But just that
Understood. I'm asking,
now.
it seemed at the bench that some people were maybe saying, we don't believe that he was ever qualified as an expert to be able to testify to any extent about lyrics.
Anything.
If I'm just misunderstanding, then please correct me. But we don't need to find the hearing transcript and sort it out if y'all aren't maintaining that.
I don't think you're incorrect. I think you're correct. That's what we said at the
Okay.
And just, don't want to seem like we're being cagey about it, but it was in December 2022.
Okay, well, it may be that the easier thing to do is to just bring him in and do this little part of it now. I don't mind doing that. If that,
I don't want to speak for everyone else. If there is a rough of the finding, perhaps that might be.
Oh, I've looked at the finding. That doesn't, I mean.
Well, not the order.
It's the ruling. That appears to be just the ruling, not the actual hearing itself. I can email that to everybody.
I'm not sure.
That might be helpful.
Well, y'all can certainly look at it, but that won't take very long. And then if anybody wants, we can just have him come testify outside the jury's presence, and I'll make a determination
Yeah, let's
as to
do
whether
that.
he has the necessary expertise to be able to
Yak
testify
has
in the way
been
that
very
was about to be
active
asked.
lately.
And Your Honor, to be clear,
This
it's
whole
not-
week, Yak and Weinstein have been like this the whole time. Just Yak grabbing, the notes, being involved. Like they have been working. Oh my God, I just noticed Quay. Look over here, Nichols. Is that Nichols? Anyhow, over here, sound asleep.
About the lyrics about gang promotion in the music. So it's not specifically about, I think Mr. Weinstein said musicology. We're not talking about.
I know that, which is why I overruled that objection.
Oh, it was a very good point. Look, Doug's writing it down. Okay, Yak made a good point. We do have an Instagram, Aqua. It's been put here in the thread, but I think Tall Glass could post it in there for me. Tall Glass is still on right now. Would love for all of you to follow me on Instagram. I'm almost at 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is my goal for this
A
year.
rough of the Daubert hearing. What we've got a rough of so far is some of his trial testimony. So
hit subscribe. So hit subscribe. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Let's get that 10K. I can't wait.
I'm going to recess for a few minutes. It looks like y'all are maybe trying to pull it up from the live stream. Just need to use the restroom. Y'all go do.
Okay. So they recess. Man, this day was beautiful. It was so fun. All right, now Adams is going to voir dire him.
Well, Mr. Butts is here.
Isn't it? I didn't even see him.
Go ahead.
Anyway. All right. Have a seat.
Yes, please do.
So understanding the court's ruling in regards to Detective Dennis not being able to testify about subliminal messages or anything like that, and just going really to the basic issue of what he was qualified for, I'm just going to take my direction from the transcript that was thankfully sent to us by Ms. Burstfield, as well as the court's actual order. Let me say first that the Daubert hearings were held initially back in December of 22, but I think Detective Dennis, if I'm remembering correctly, was one of those who we weren't able to do then, so he may have been in 2023. That notwithstanding, I don't have any recollection of the detective being questioned or talking about his ability to interpret lyrics as part of his expertise. And so if we're relying on what the court ordered, what the court ruled, I look at page 6 of the court. I know you have it in front of you.
I do.
The court's order, which was drafted by the state.
It's adopted by the court, though, so that's really neither here nor there. Go ahead.
Right. And so I just know that there's nothing in there where he is qualified to testify about anything in regards to any lyrics, in regards to interpretation of rap lyrics, nothing in regards to his training or his qualification thereof. So we maintain our position that he is not qualified to testify about what the state intends to qualify.
I thought that what y'all were looking back at was the live stream of the Daubert hearing.
We couldn't find it.
Okay. Well, the order on page 5 says that Detective Dennis also, quote, has extensive experience in evaluating their social media and communication practices, unquote. So if nobody can answer for me one way or another what it covered, and you maintain that you don't think it covered this, or you don't know what it covered, I'm happy to just have him come in here and let's hear his expertise on that.
Okay.
And go on with it.
Let's have that Daubert.
Fine. We do not accept that when the court says communication patterns that they're talking specifically about rap lyrics. That's all.
I don't know. Let's get him in here.
Okay.
If nobody can remember.
Do it. Let's Daubert the
And we don't have a transcript.
All right, now let's watch this while I take a comfort break.
Did either of y'all handle the Daubert on this witness?
No, Your Honor. And what he was qualified in is a gang expert, and I am positive he talked about how gang members use music.
Were you there
I was
for it?
present.
Okay.
And
And
how,
is this from your memory?
this is from my memory, how music can play a role in gang promotion, how music can play a role in gang, in the promotion of the gang. And that is what we're talking about. We're not talking about lyrics and musicology, but how does music play a role in the game?
Do you recall the Daubert hearing involving you in this case?
Yes.
Do you remember whether you testified to your expertise and experience in terms of looking at lyrics and songs and using those in your gang investigations?
Yes.
Okay. Given that, anybody want to voir dire him on that topic, not his expertise, but whether he in fact testified about that already in the Daubert hearing?
Can I say something else? We talked about lyrics the last time I was here with the halftime song, me and Mr. Adams. Also, the last time I testified, the second time.
Is it going to be anything beyond that? That same type of testimony?
No, that's it, Your Honor. I mean, it is how do gangs use music, period.
What's your question going to be?
Whether or not he is qualified to do any interpretation of music, rap lyrics as relates to his expertise in gangs. Not whether or not he's familiar with communication patterns of gangs, but specifically whether he can look at a particular rap lyric and make any interpretation about what that means to gangs, specifically in regards to this case.
Is that something that was already covered in the Daubert hearing?
Yes.
All right, we're not going to recover it. I mean, I don't have any reason to not believe this witness.
Understood.
Okay. Let's get the jury. Well, honestly, we should just let the jury go out to lunch at this point. How long are we going to be with this witness?
Your Honor, probably about an hour and a half at that.
All right. Do we know whether lunches are here yet? They're not. All right.
All right, after continuing objection in regards to that, please.
Okay. Let's get the jury back in. Laura. Defense approach. Release you for lunch. I sort of had a thought about something when y'all were on the way out that I think we need to probably take care of before we continue with the testimony of this witness. So I'm going to release y'all for lunch, and if y'all could be back at 1:15, please. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just thinking now. Whitaker just said to them, we got to go take care of something with this witness. Then this stuff happens. Then they get back from lunch. Then Whitaker does what she does with this witness. And you can't help but wonder if the jury's like, did that have to do with why we went to lunch? You know, if I was a juror, I'd be like trying to connect dots.
In the last 2 seconds, Ms. Percival has received the rough of the Daubert hearing, so she's going to send that out to everybody. And if it's already resolved, then it's resolved, and we can all just go to lunch. If not, we'll stick around here. How about you be looking, and why don't we just go ahead and do our mini Daubert?
Your Honor, we found it online too. We can share it if you want to do it that way too.
If you found it and we have an answer, great.
No. We have the YouTube position.
Oh.
Didn't watch it yet.
How long? I mean, I would imagine it's pretty long, right?
It's an hour.
I have it, but I didn't see the links.
I was here for an hour.
Unless that's searchable.
I was here for an hour.
You were here for an hour?
Yes, in my double here.
Okay, I don't think it's.
Wasn't here long.
Yes. That is so cool. Searchable. Transcript that we have.
Just a mess. Mess.
Satisfied.
51.
51, 52.
41.
41. 55. 16. All right, so he's qualified. We're breaking for lunch. See y'all back
Wait,
at
what?
55.
Must have missed it.
And understanding what's going on in the music, and it maybe just meaning something to the average listener and other people, to other things to members in the gang. So,
That's page 16.
well, what I'm looking at is page 51, but music, and it maybe
Where did
Detective
he
Dennis
say
clearly
it?
testified about lyrics and other qualified.
Okay, so she qualifies him. I guess it's when he got back that he started talking about YouTube. Idiot. Let's see.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. How many times has this man testified in the trial? How long has he been in? I know he's a retired.
Go back. Oh, jeez. Okay, the drama had started.
Here, whatever response the state might be able to make on that.
Your Honor, that was.
Okay. I'm so dramatic. Okay, here we go. I don't know, K-Way. If I was a juror, I would not be entertained. I would be irritated.
Go ahead, whichever one of y'all is going to handle that part.
Detective Dennis, as a gang investigator, did music sometimes come up in your investigations?
Yes.
How did it come up in your investigation?
A lot of rappers participate in gangs, and so it often came up.
And as an expert, when you said a lot of gang members rap, do gangs in your experience use music in order to promote their gangs?
Yes.
Do they also use music and sometimes to promote fear and violence in their music?
Yes.
I think it's if you could focus more on what his training and experience with regard to that is.
Sure. Tell the court about your training experience in using music as a part of your investigation.
Okay, here it comes.
In my almost 10 years in the gang unit, we investigated countless different gangs, gang members, music, literature, social media. Like I said previously, nothing was off limits. And music, like I said earlier, a lot of times we weren't investigating the music, we were investigating the crime, and the music came up, or someone made us aware of a song that referenced something in reference to the crime in which we was investigating.
And as you heard those songs, how did you then use that as part of your investigation?
That helped understand sometimes why a retaliation happened, or were they taunting a rival, or were they highlighting something that they did or something like that, and that helped us investigate what we were doing.
And how often over your 10 years of being a part of gang unit would you say music came up in your investigation?
A lot, like a percentage.
Yeah.
I could even, it's 75% to 100%, I don't know.
Okay. And have you ever had the occasion to teach on how music and gang culture?
About hip hop and gang culture and how they go hand in hand.
And how many times have you done that presentation?
More than 10.
More than 10. And just tell the court a little bit about what you talked about in that presentation.
In the presentation, I based brain. Last time, the movies Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, I didn't know what a blood or a crip was until I saw colors. All of that.
I've seen Boys in the Hood. I've seen Blood In, Blood Out. Does that make me a gang expert? Y'all, the
Just do entertainment. Same thing with music.
If you can tell the court briefly, what were some of the songs that you used as a part of your presentation?
Part of my presentation.
I'm more interested in his own training than his teaching other people. I mean, I get that he must have had something from which he could then teach other people, but we're skipping that part.
So again, over the course of your tenure, you said you maybe had about 75 to 100% of your cases are with may have had some type of music involved in your investigation. Have you had you yourself trained specifically on how music can be a part of your gang investigations?
I took every gang class that they offered us. We took gang training through Gypstick. We took training in other jurisdictions. We took whatever gang training was offered in an effort to learn trends, music or what have you. We also had monthly meetings with other departments, and we also information shared about music, gang trends, and different things, because a lot of times something that was happening in Atlanta or happening in another jurisdiction eventually was going to come to Atlanta. And so we often shared this information over the course of my years through my training and my own background. I was able to decipher a song, decipher movies and entertainment, and understand what's being said. And through interviews with individuals involved in our investigations, a lot of them would help us understand some of the music and some of the lyrics that they were saying.
I saw Goodfellas. I saw all the Godfather movies. Let's see. I went on a kick once where I was only watching like mafia movies, right? And so it was like a good few months where I just watched mafia movies. So I guess I'm an expert on the mafia. How exciting, y'all. We should all go to Fulton County. We could get such easy jobs as experts. We don't have to go to college for it. We don't even have to like write articles.
All right, does anybody have questions? All right.
I want to hone in specifically on your training, right? I heard you say that you've given a presentation about gangs, but I'm asking about gangs and specifically rap music and rap lyrics as it relates to gangs. What is this presentation that you've given, and are there any literature? Is there literature or any material that you have that you can share with us that you've used in this presentation?
I don't have the presentation with me, but in the presentation, it's my own accumulation of entertainment, music, and presenting. I present to kids, I present to adults and other cops in educating them. In the gang unit, a lot of officers don't understand what's happening right before their eyes, and so for myself, I was tasked with educating not only our department, but other departments when I worked for the ATF, them as well as students about this information.
What literature specifically have you used to educate either yourself or other investigators in regards to the relationship to rap and rap lyrics to gangs?
You mean, when you say literature, you mean like books, or are you talking about magazines?
I'm talking about books, I'm talking about learned treatises, I'm talking about studies, anything like
Training
that.
materials.
Yeah, like real
magazines. We might use any hip hop magazine or different examples that's in a magazine might be something that we are able to reference because of the wording or something like that.
Yeah, we use Rolling Stone magazine. We use Ebony magazine, and that's how we put. First of all, they're called periodicals, you dipshit. And secondly, that is not enough.
Reference books. I've read different gang books from other officers. I've read a book out of Compton. I think it's a lonely.
You read somebody's book about growing up in Compton?
Gang in Compton or something, and it was written by gang detectives out of Compton because a lot of gang they were privy to a lot more information than we were in their own work over the years.
Right, and what specific information? Here's what I'm trying to get to. Detective. I'm really not trying to trick you or anything, but I want to know specifically. Is there a book, is there a training manual that specifically deals with rap lyrics as it relates to gangs?
No.
Okay. You referenced before, I think you used the words, my own background was used to decipher this information. You talked about movies. So are we talking simply about you looking at the movie Minister Society?
Yeah,
yes.
Right, looking at the movie Boys in the Hood?
Yes.
And you're saying that that is what you have used to form your expertise in regards to rap lyrics and the relationship between rap lyrics and gangs?
What I'm saying is, based on my own upbringing.
Do you hear how stupid it sounds when you say it out loud? To your movie? Oh, Jesus.
Growing up in a gang-infested environment, my own education, my own training, as well as watching these said movies is where I formulated my opinion.
Have there, other than what you yourself have experienced in your own personal life, right, have there been any, for example, instructors, professors, or anyone else who have taught you?
Y'all, when I went to law school, my son was 3. And, like, he went to classes with me sometimes. He went to mock trial with me all the damn time, all the time. So, by this Fulton County standard, that means my son should be allowed to sit for the bar exam right now. He went to law school.
Using material or lesson plan in regards to the relationship between rap lyrics and gang? No?
No.
All right. Those are all the questions I have.
Anybody else? Any redirect?
Nothing on the stage, Ryan.
All right. So, and then has a part of what you have done, how does that intersect with what you know about gangs? The music and the lyrics?
From listening, I'm a rap fan myself, and from listening to music and watching movies, videos, YouTube, I'm able to understand what is being said and what is being expressed. Of my life, it's just like watching anything, I can understand it. And by me being a gang investigator, a regular person might listen and think it's art, and it may be art. But for myself, with my education and my background and investigating gangs for a number of years, I'm able to understand exactly the message that's being kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? That's being given.
Hold on. Look at the Matthews table. Both these men have the same perplexed look on their face. Junior and senior is like, what? I love it. I look at their expressions.
But I understand when someone says, I caught somebody down bad. To you, you may look at that and say, oh, they caught somebody down bad. But for me, that means you caught somebody and you were able to hurt them, kill them, or what have you. So I'm able to decipher what is being said. A regular lay person does not understand that. They look at it as just art or a lyric in a song.
Okay. All right. Once again, I'm satisfied that based on his training and experience, he can testify as an expert as to maybe a double meaning within rap lyrics.
Your Honor.
And it's obviously ultimately going to be for the jury to determine whether they, believe and accept as credible anything he or any other witness says. Yes, sir.
And Your Honor, that's my issue. I understand the court's ruling. I just ask you to consider what he has testified to. He has no specialized knowledge beyond the ken of any layperson. I understand his saying that what he grew up around. I grew up in Brooklyn too. And maybe there are members of the jury who have the same experience, life experiences as him, but that's not what purpose.
I understand. I'm not basing it just on where he grew up. It's his training and experience as a gang investigator.
But specifically in regards to the interpretation of rap and rap lyrics as it relates to gangs, he has not given the court any information whatsoever to indicate that he has any specialized knowledge that will qualify him as an expert, such that his opinion could go to the jury for them to look at him as an expert in that field. None whatsoever. And I maintain my objection. I'd ask that he not be qualified in that particular area.
All right, I understand, and your objection is overruled. I mean, this just happens to be words that are set to a beat. It's no different. All right, let's get the jury in here.
Let's get the jury in there. He's just been qualified as an expert over everyone's objection. He does not meet the Daubert standards. Believe me, the Daubert standards are not having watched the movie. I am a big movie fan. I watch a lot of movies, y'all. That doesn't make me an expert on anything. Huddle. Okay.
Before we go back to where we left off at, just a few additional questions. You talked about during your investigation back in 2015, you were able to go to social media and pull things from social media. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
All right. And even after 2015, did you still pull or were able to view social media of individuals that were part of that 2015 investigation?
Yes.
You have permission to approach?
You may.
I'm going to, in which you pulled from social media contains a blue card and an individual standing on a blue card.
Yes.
Okay, look at this. Max is using this time to go talk to Atkins about stuff. Brilliant. This is efficiency. This is what we should see in the courtroom. Okay? She's doing her thing. He's coming over. That they can talk. They can make some efficient decisions. You guys can't see my mouse, but
Next time, like 10 Exhibit 1 TT. Is that a picture? What was the Instagram? And is there a date on that image?
March 28th of 2015.
Your Honor, this time it's by the 10 Exhibit 544 YS Avenue.
It's a minute.
Your Honor,
Yeah.
oh, she's like doing something with her.
I do have a
Sorry.
specific objection.
Okay.
I can approach now, or I can.
Looks like her feet were falling asleep or something.
5 YS Avenue.
Just renewing my objection from when we.
44 wide.
First show on Stacey Exhibit 543Y.
Who's that? Is that Shannon? Is that Yak and Shannon? So they're so young, you can't even tell. Can't even tell. I'm sure their mothers know, but. Okay. I think it happens shortly after this. Okay, here it comes. I guess we didn't hear him say it. Did he say it when he stood up? Like, when did he say it? Here comes, okay, I see Weinstein talking back. I see Paige looking very upset. Look at the judge. Here comes Weinstein.
Ms. Weinstein.
Your Honor, this one you cannot fix. This is bad character evidence that came in. The state should have prepared their witness. I move for a mistrial. This absolutely cannot be unheard by the jury. It was heard clear as day in his deep, sonorous voice. They have heard it. They have absorbed it. It cannot be fixed. 404A, Your Honor.
So the jury heard it, but we
What
didn't
response
get
the
to.
state might be able to make on that?
Your Honor, that was not the state's intention.
Sure it wasn't.
Your Honor, that wasn't even. That response didn't even come across my mind. That would even have come out of our witness's mouth, Your Honor. The state's intention was to solely talk about the vehicle that he was standing on and the fact that he was standing on that vehicle. If you could just give us an opportunity just to look at some case law just to see if.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. How many times has this man testified in the trial? How long has he been I know he's a retired investigator. How long has he been an investigator? He knows he is not supposed to say that, Your Honor.
I would find it surprising if he isn't aware that that's not supposed to come out. I do not believe that the state intended to elicit that, and I think that you actually yourself acknowledged up here at the bench that you don't believe that was the state's intention.
I do not believe that's their
Nonetheless, it
intention.
happened. I'm going to give y'all about 15 minutes or so to find whatever you might be able to find.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so this was so dramatic, y'all.
Of that picture of the state's intention was solely to talk about the fact that Mr. Kendrick was standing on that car being that of Rayshon Bennett. His mother had identified that car yesterday during her testimony, Your Honor. So it was an inadvertent response, which was not responsive to the state's answer, Your Honor. And given that is what occurred, Your Honor, the state would ask that you deny their motion. Furthermore, Your Honor, other factors that you look at in order to determine whether or not the actions taken by the court was the reference isolated and brief, and whether the jury exposure was repeated and extensive, and was it inadvertent. Additionally, Your Honor, within the indictments, Your Honor, we did charge Mr. Kendrick as one of the overt acts in this indictment, which is Act 58, and he's also charged in this indictment in count 63 of this indictment, Your Honor, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, previously convicted of a felony involving the use or possession of a firearm. Your Honor, so for the purpose of having to prove that count of the indictment, we will have to enter Mr. Kendrick's certified copy of his conviction, of course, with a limiting instruction that only be used against him, Your Honor. So will not be substantially convicted because we have instructed our witness as well.
Okay. So she's saying he's the criminal as part of the
Thank
case.
you, Your Honor.
It's not a prejudice.
In the Swims case cited by the state, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not believe that was a seasoned officer that testified about the bad character. Is that correct?
I don't know if it was.
No, I looked. It's not.
It's an inmate, right? And I think there's a distinction between a fellow inmate and an officer with decades of experience. And it's not just I that think that. I mean, I think if you go back and look at Posey v. State, which you may have already looked at, 152, Georgia Appeals 216, there you have a case where a seasoned officer testified about bad character of a defendant. The court in that case called for, there should have been a mistrial. It says that when it's impossible for the trial court by corrective instruction to rectify the harm done by improper testimony, a mistrial must be granted. And again, the issue here is you have a seasoned officer, someone with years of experience testifying. And in Posey, there's really very instructive language from our courts where they say, we reiterate here, I'm sorry, I'm talking too fast.
And too loudly.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to tone it down. We reiterate here what we said in Boyd. It may well be argued.
I love how Yak giggled at that. He said, yeah, I'm going to tone it down. He's upset. I'd be upset too. Like, you're violating my client's rights, you know, and it's fucking wrong. So I get it. I'd be pissed if I was him too. Look, everyone's giggling, even YSL grandma.
That peace officers are not always well acquainted with our rules of evidence, and that statements such as the one here are merely inadvertent. I'm going to stop the quote for a second to say something, which is, again, here we have a peace officer, here we have an investigator who is well seasoned. The quote continues, but if we were to counsel the time that this court go on record as opposing mistrial.
Any last words by the state? Well, actually, never mind. It's the defense's motion, so y'all don't get any last words. All right, I think I am finding that this was not intentionally elicited on the part of the state. However, I also am finding that this witness as a law enforcement officer should have known better than to make any mention of it. It is, however, significant that one of the charges against Mr. Kendrick in this indictment is that he is a convicted felon. Were it not for that, I would grant the mistrial motion. But given that the jury already knows that he's been convicted and is a convicted felon anyway, even without this testimony, I don't think that a mistrial is warranted. I am, however, going to give a curative instruction.
I thought we were so close. Yesterday, I thought we were so close.
As a sanction for this having occurred, that's the end of the testimony from this witness. There's going to be no more testimony from him. So he's done.
Finally, a sanction.
What I am proposing to say as an instruction is defendant Kendrick's prior criminal history has no relevance to this case except as to count 63 and should not have been mentioned. Further, this witness, as a former law enforcement officer, should have known better than to make any mention of it. Likewise, Mr. Kendrick's criminal history should not be considered in connection with any of these other defendants or any of the charges against them in this case.
He should have known.
Strike everything he said.
To cross-examine. So it would be a confrontation clause. It would be reversible error. So I'm moving.
Let me ask you this. Have y'all cross-examined him the two times before? All right, so we're going to strike everything he said today.
And the notes, just like you did before, all the notes have to go back, give them to the court if you don't mind. Put them on the seal, or that's what I remember you doing, but whatever you did with them. And if they can't follow that instruction, please alert them before if you don't mind.
You're right. Can we just ask that we can just stop our testimony and give them an opportunity to cross-examine him?
No. The bummer about that is there was this video footage during his testimony that was like this fight that broke out in a strip club, and it was kind of funny video footage. It was fun. But that is not gonna happen. Detective Dennis is permanently barred from this trial, so we will never see his ugly face again. Thank you, Lord. Whitaker made a comment. Nikki told her, St. Nikki Hilton told her that the trial had started actually in November, and Whitaker was like, oh my God, it's even longer than I thought. And then she has several times thanked the states for being more efficient, but has told them to streamline their case. And she suggested that the state should rest its case before the Christmas break. So I do think she's, reining it in. I do think that if the state makes another reversible mistake, that she will call the mistrial. She almost did on this one. And so I do think that we will see that if that type of mistake occurs again, which we know it will. It's just a matter of days, really. I think Paige is pretty much over this shit. I mean, who can sit there and listen to Line Love talk in circles for as long as you have and not just want to, shoot yourself in the face? She's awful. They're going to come back this afternoon at 1:45 their time. That's 3 minutes from now. And then they're going to go until before 4, because at 4 is the Monk-Tunk plea... revocation. I keep thinking removal. Revocation. At 4 o'clock is the Monk-Tunk plea revocation hearing. So they'll be clearing out before that. I will be back next week at 10 a.m. I am also following the Sarah Boone trial. The opening statements for that trial happened today. So on Wednesday, I will cover that. If you are a member, you are getting bonus footage every Thursday. I'm putting out videos for members only every Thursday. Last Thursday, 2 days ago, was about P. Diddy. Thank you, everyone, for your likes, for your subscribes, for your super stickers, for all of your financial contributions, your Cashapp donations. Last month, we were able to collect $175 for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and we couldn't have done that without you. Thank you, 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 thank you so much. Again, I'm trying to get to 10,000 subs by the end of the year, so please hit subscribe. Make sure you like, share this with your friends, get into the comments. I want to know how you feel about these things. The case is a shit show. But they're coming back for lunch, and I have a hearing at 3 that I need to prepare for. So I'm going to let y'all go. It was wonderful hanging out with you today. I'll see you again next Friday. Hopefully you'll check out the Sarah Boone on Wednesday. And like I said, if you're a member, you'll get that video footage on Thursday. Don't forget, we have merch like this wonderful bag. Just click the button below and follow us on Instagram and all the other stuff. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week.